So this is Dr. Shalini Sharma welcoming you on behalf of Sanshodhan and E-Waste Exchange. Today we are going to have a webinar on digitization for EPR compliance, recycling and circular economy. Challenges and opportunities in India we will try to address. With me, I will be having around 10 panelists where we are having the right from Member of Parliament to the Member Secretary, Pollution Control Board, some of the recyclers who are joining from India and others who are joining from Singapore. I will be having my co-host, Mr. Deepak Gadia, who is also a chairman of advisory board of Sanshodhan and E-Waste Exchange. So first of all, why we do this kind of webinar and what exactly we are going to gain out of after 3 hours staying together on this webinar. This agenda is very clear today, and I will be setting the background. Over the years, the industrialization, overproduction, increased purchasing capacity of the society, and overconsumption has led to the linear economy, that is make, sell, and throw economy. So linear economy led to increasing size of dump yards, marine litter, climate change, ecological disturbances, and started posing social, environmental, and financial challenges at various levels that are getting intense every year, impacting the very existence of mankind now. Thus, we from Sanshodhan are involved and working for digital solutions for waste management and resource recovery, where circular economy is deeply ingrained and become a part of solution we offer. In addition, we understand that what can be measured can be managed, and what can't be measured, it can't be managed. So our solutions, even when it's customized for our clients, have data as a key ingredient that enable our clients for informed decision making. With this, let's start the session today on the topic digitization for EPR compliance, recycling and circular economy, challenges and opportunities in India. I welcome all the participants for this event. Now I take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Deepak Gadia, the Chairman Advisory Council, Sanshodhan and E-Waste Exchange. He is leading the solar entrepreneur in clean tech sector. He travels a lot.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
He travels a lot to share the knowledge and core competencies he acquired over more than 35 years of experience in solar and sustainability sector. I welcome the Chair of Advisory Board, Sanshodhan and E-Waste Exchange, Mr. Deepak Gadia. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shalini. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, because we are from all parts of the world. So friends, Jai Shri Krishna. I welcome everyone on behalf of Sanshodhan, the E-Exchange, along with WEE Forum, Europe, in organizing this online event on EPR compliance, recycling and circular economy and challenges and opportunities in India to mark the International Day to 2020. This year's theme of E-Waste Day has been education. Thus, the event is planned to create large-scale awareness among students, society, professionals, industries, specifically electronic products manufacturers and producers, and academia, those who can contribute and solve e-waste pollution and related issues in India. International E-Waste Day was developed in 2018 by the WEEE Forum with the support of its member. The day is used to raise the public profit profile of e-waste recycling and encourage consumers to recycle their e-waste, with the resulting increase in e-waste recycling rates on the day itself and also in the future. For India, as per SOCHEM's estimate, India will generate about 5.2 million tons of e-waste by the end of year 2020. Maybe because of problem now, it may increase because now, as we just discussed, there is a new normal now, where more and more people are going to electronic platform. Globally, 53.6 million ton of electronic waste was generated worldwide in 2019, and only 17.4% of this was collected and recycled. So this is a large concern, and this is why I'm happy that we are going to address this problem. Sanshodhan, the E-Waste Exchange Private Limited, based in India, is uniquely positioned to solve some of the issues in e-waste management sector. Sanshodhan is an award-winning, globally recognized emerging company, playing a key role for the upliftment and improvement of e-waste management sector through digitalization of transformation. Sanshodhan has innovated world's first, many of the first, some of them are digital PRO system for electronic and electrical product manufacturing companies, boost unit support for EPR compliances. They were the ones who developed REG Tech, that tech-based system to assist business for regulatory compliance. They developed the standard e-recirculate, which has been a registered trademark, the first circular economy standard to assist scale businesses circular. That is to produce circular economy models at their business and set national and global benchmark for resource conservation and efficiency. Sanshodhan for its innovation is recognized and highly recommended the circulars 2019 by the World Economic Forum, Davos. Sanshodhan also achieved Digital Woman Entrepreneur Award for She the People TV. Is the winner of Swachh Bharat Grand Challenge awarded by DIPP, Ministry of Industry and Commerce, Government of India. Is also the winner of Better Together Global Top 10 status awarded by GIC and BMU. BMU of environmental agency there. And Sanshodhan is also the winner of Global Sustainable Development Goal Award from Responsible Finance and Investment UK and DDCAP of Abu Dhabi, and has achieved many more recognitions from state governments and organizations. And it is 2.5 years it has been stormed. In a very short time, it has been able to make a good progress and has a large footprint. Today, we welcome you all for this event, making the International E-Waste Day 2020. I'm happy that you all has joined us, where we can all together learn, pledge, act, and contribute to solve e-waste pollution and related challenges. So thank you very much. All the best to all of you, all of us. Wish you all the best. Thank you, Jai Shri Krishna. Shalini, back to you again.
Thank you, sir, for introducing us so comprehensively. And of course, in your mentorship, this organization is moving ahead. Thank you for kind support. We hope for the same in future. So now we are moving towards the agenda. As our first speaker today, we are having Mr. Kumar Pathak from State Pollution Control Board of Telangana. So he squeezed in his time from the field, and we requested us particularly to be with us, in fact, even for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever we have, to provide us the input specifically on one topic that is called as setting up the recycling units in Telangana. So many times it happens that the entrepreneurs are coming up in this sector and they want to set up the dismantling unit starting from there. And Telangana being quite environment friendly plus business friendly state, they want to have more and more people coming up here in. And capacity building is really required for knowing the process, how to set up the dismantling unit, how to set up the recycling unit, and what are the differences, what is the permission, what is the timeline. So Mr. Kumar Pathak is here, who will be enlightening us on these topics. Mr. Kumar Pathak, we are presenting your presentation. You can just keep on speaking on.
Yes.
Just a second.
My video is not started.
Yeah, I'm just. We are just looking at where exactly your file is. Your video permission is given to you. I think you have to.
Oh, madam, it is not yet. It is there, madam. It is. Yes.
Can you share
Yes,
this
madam.
on your end?
I will try, madam. Yes. Is it visible, madam?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
I think it's coming up.
One minute.
Yeah, it's coming now.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, it's visible.
Is it visible, madam?
Yes, it is visible, sir. It is visible.
Good afternoon, all, and my greetings to all the participants. I am Kumar Pathak, working as environmental engineer at Telangana Pollution Control Board, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to Sanshodhan for this topic of setting up a e-waste recycling unit in Telangana state. Actually, we are very much welcoming all the stakeholders, all the companies who wish to establish e-waste recycling and dismantling facilities here. I will give a short presentation on the topics connected with it. So, as all we know, we had earlier 2011 e-waste management rules, which were superseded in 2016, and subsequently certain amendments were added in 2018. The objectives of these rules were to promote and encourage establishment of efficient e-waste collection mechanism, recycling and channelizing to dismantle and recyclers, and to minimize the illegal recycling and recovery of e-waste, and also to reduce hazardous substances in electrical and electronic equipment. These are the objectives of the e-waste management rules 2016 in India. We all know e-waste is the waste coming from electrical and electronic equipment, which is discarded as waste by the consumers or bulk consumers, and also rejects from manufacturing, refurbishment, and repairing process. We have two categories of equipments from which e-waste is generated. These are broadly information technology and telecommunication equipment, and consumer electrical and electronic equipments. These electrical and electronic equipment, they contain some various substances, which includes chemicals and toxic metals, heavy metals, and hence the e-waste from these electrical and electronic equipment has the potential to create adverse impact on environment and also health if they are not handled properly. So to overcome this, and there are environmental sound management which includes taking all the steps required to ensure e-waste is managed in a manner that will protect health and environment against adverse effects. And then there are the steps in recycling and recovery, basically dismantling, then segregation of various materials such as metals and non-metals, plastics. Then some of the equipments can go for refurbishment and reuse. Some of the waste will go for recycling and recovery of valuable materials. Then after that, the residues and whatever non-recoverable e-waste, it has to go to treatment and disposal of waste, like landfilling and incineration. There are certain responsibilities for e-waste dismantlers and recyclers as per the e-waste management rules 2016. The basic is they have to follow the CPCB guidelines on the facility and also the processes. Then they have to obtain authorization from State Pollution Control Board. They have to ensure that there is no damage to environment and health effects during storage, transportation, and processing of e-waste. Then the non-recyclable, non-recoverable e-waste, they have to send it to TSDF. And then they have to maintain all the records of e-waste in Form 2, and they have to file annual returns to the State Pollution Control Board in Form 3, which is by 30th June of every financial year. These are the responsibilities. Then there is procedure to obtain authorization for their e-waste dismantling and recycling operations. Actually, as per the CPCB categorization of industries, e-waste dismantling and recycling processes, these fall under red category. However, environmental clearance is not required for these activities. So to obtain the first step in going towards authorization is they have to obtain consent for establishment, CFE, under Water and Air Act for establishment of their facility. And after the facility is established, then they have to go for consent for operation, hazardous waste authorization under Water and Air Act and hazardous waste rules for operation of facility. Then they have to apply for authorization under e-waste rules. They have to apply in Form 4. Actually, as per the rules, the timeline for processing the e-waste authorization application is 120 days. Then some of the documents as per the rules which are necessary for while applying for authorization. The one is consent for establishment under Water and Air Act, then certificate of registration issued by District Industry Center, then proof of installed capacity by the District Industry Center or other government agency authorized. These are the documents required. Then in the Ease of Doing Business 2020 initiative, actually presently consent for establishment, consent for operation, hazardous waste authorization, these applications are processed online. The timeline for consent for CFE and CFO for first time is 21 days. And this renewal timeline is 30 days. Actually, under EODB 2020, the system for online processing of e-waste authorization is being provided now. So e-waste authorization will be issued along with CFO. The applications will be processed simultaneously and combined order will be issued. Hence the timeline will now be reduced to, in the case of first time application, it will be 21 days and for renewal it will be 30 days. This is the latest timeline as per the state of Telangana. Then there are, this is until now I have informed about the procedure to obtain authorization. But apart from this, there are certain CPCB guidelines for all the stakeholders. Actually, as per the waste management rules, there are specific guidelines for recyclers and dismantlers. So these are the one of the important guidelines. They have to they may set up collection center, no separate permission for collection center. Then they have to install weigh bridge and weighing equipment. They have to ensure no damage to health and environment. Then they have to have facility for destroying or permanently delete memory data. Then dismantling, as per the rules, will comprise of physical separation and segregation. Then for that, screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers, wire cutters, hammers can be used for dismantling operation. Then processes to be employed by recyclers. For recyclers, they have given list of processes which include dismantling operation, then shredding, crushing, fine grinding, then enrichment operation, then separation operations, then pyro, hydro and electrometallurgical operations, chemical leaching, CRT, LCD and plasma processing, toner cartridge recycling, melting, casting and molding operations. These are the processes employed by various recyclers of e-waste. Then the dedusting facility in the e-waste dismantling or recycling. For dedusting operation, they have to provide cyclone and backfilter with a chimney to control air pollution. Then the dismantlers, there are certain restrictions when we come to dismantler. For dismantlers, certain operations are not permitted, such as shredding, crushing, then grinding, magnetic or current separation, then fluorescent and other mercury containing lamps, CRT, LCD, plasma TV, chemical leaching or heating and melting process. These are not permitted for dismantling operations. So dismantlers have to carry out only physical operations. Then there are some adequate facilities for managing leakage of compressor oils, coolant or refrigerant gases and mercury. These are important for dismantler and as well as recycler. Then there are premise requirements such as waterproof roofing and impermeable surfaces, then storage space for disassembled spare parts, and separate containers for storage of batteries, capacitors, etc. Then recycling facility, they have to install treatment facility for their processed wastewater. They also have to provide air pollution control equipment such as scrubbers, bag filters, carbon filters, depending on type of operation they carry out. Then also wet scrubbers and carbon filters shall be installed for to control fugitive from furnaces and reactors. Then noise control equipments shall be provided for crusher, grinder and shredder where there is a potential to create noise pollution. Then there is specific space requirement guideline by CPCB for both dismantlers and recyclers. For dismantlers, it is 300 square meter per 1 ton per day of capacity. For these are storage, dismantling operations and office administration, or usually all put together, they must have 300 square meter of area for processing of 1 ton per day of e-waste for dismantlers. And for recyclers, it is 500 square meter per ton of e-waste processing is the space requirement as per CPCB guidelines. Further, 5 tons per day and with an area of 2500 square meter is the minimum operational capacity suggested by CPCB. So this is more important criteria to be focused on by the ensuing recyclers and dismantlers. Then we also actually, as of now, we have 9 e-waste dismantling facilities with 29,000 tons capacity and also 3 e-waste recycling units with 43,700 tons per annum capacity. We have displayed all the details of existing dismantling and recycling units in our website tspcb.cgg.gov.in under e-waste tab. Then there is scope, still there is very much scope for e-waste facilities in the state of Telangana. They are considering huge e-waste generation potential, and as of now, part of existing e-waste is going to other states such as Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh. So part of e-waste generated in the state of Telangana is going outside states. So there is a scope for setting up of facilities in the state of Telangana. The state government is also encouraging new facilities. Various incentives are offered by the government under e-waste management policy 2017. The main subsidies and incentives, there 1 crore of subsidies offered for capital investment of 5 crores for the first 5 facilities. For dismantle and collection centers, 30 lakh subsidy for minimum 1 lakh, 1 crore capital investment. Then subsidy on lease rentals of 25%, maximum of 5 lakhs. Then training subsidy, 1,000 per month for a person for first 3 months. Then reimbursement of local taxes for first 3 years of operation in each town. So these are the incentives and subsidies being offered by the state government of Telangana. So before ending my presentation, I invite all the companies which desire to establish the e-waste dismantling and recycling facilities in our state of Telangana, because we are a very much environment friendly state and also investment friendly state. We have all the systems in place. All the systems are now online. There is much transparency, very much transparency in the processing of various authorization applications and also all the licenses. So there is a great opportunity in the state of Telangana. We invite all the companies to have their facilities here. The government is very encouraging, and the Pollution Control Board also processing and guiding all the stakeholders. There is huge scope for e-waste collection in the state of Telangana. So with this, I end this small presentation. And apart from it, as a regulatory body of Telangana State Pollution Control Board, I request all the stakeholders who are attending this meeting to file their respective e-waste returns, annual returns in Form 3, whoever companies are operating in the state of Telangana. So it will help the board to consolidate the e-waste generation in the state. I thank you all, and thank you especially Sanshodhan for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for providing these insights. I think it's a wonderful call, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
I was thinking, if before you leave, if we can.
Yes, madam. Yeah. I'm available, madam.
Okay. So one question here it is that is saying, don't you think that 120 days are too much for providing the
permission? Yes. Actually, for 120 days now, as per the EODB, we are clubbing the authorization application with consent application. So for consent, we have timeline of 21 days and 30 days. So that timeline will be drastically reduced now. Even though as per rules, it is 120 days timeline, but in the state of Telangana, we will comply with 21 and 30 days. 21 days for fresh applications and 30 days for renewal applications.
Okay. And this is done online now at present?
Yes, madam. Because as per EODB, Ease of Doing Business Action Point 2020, the e-waste authorization and plastic waste authorization, these two authorization processing is now being converted into online. So it will be clubbed with consent for operation, which is mandatory for obtaining authorization. So both the applications will be processed simultaneously, and the timeline will be very much 21 and 30 days. I hope it is one of the best timelines offered by any state in India.
That's right. Yeah. So thank you so much, and please be with us whenever you are leaving. Then this can happen.
Thank you, madam.
So we will be now we will be inviting our chief guest, Dr. Amit Patnaik. He's already here with us now, and Dr. Patnaik, I welcome you for this event today. Though he don't need any kind of introduction because India knows him very well. But as the participants and as a host, it is my responsibility to share a brief. So I'm doing it just a kind of a formality here. Dr. Patnaik is a former Indian Audit and Account Service Officer and a former Principal Accountant General for Sikkim, Odisha, West Bengal, and Kerala. He is a member parliament from Odisha in Rajya Sabha Government of India now. He is also leading an IT department in BJD Odisha, and he is the spokesperson of BJD. We welcome you, Dr. Amar Patnaik, among us, not restricting to EPR compliance that's only relevant to one policy, though today it is the topic. But I hand over to Dr. Patnaik to share his views on the digitization for policy compliance in India, requirements and its significance, and to shed some light on the current scenario on electronic waste, other waste management, and of course, some of his plans he would like to share. That will be our pleasure to listen from him. Over to you, sir.
So thank you so much, all of you. Very good evening to all of you. And at the outset, I'd like to thank Sanshodhan for inviting me to this webinar. You see, environment is something that has come back into prominence, I would like to say. I'm very careful while choosing this word, come back to prominence. Because of the pandemic, as I would think that for the first time, I think humanity as a race has started thinking about the way or the design of economic growth that we are looking at. Whether environment is going to be a part of it has already been settled long ago with the Millennium Development Goals and subsequently the SDGs. But the point is, whether at the community level, the community or the human race felt that this environment has to become very much a part of the development process. And when I say community, I do not necessarily mean community from the point of view of people who are getting the benefits of environment, ecosystem and resources, but also the community includes those people who are designing for supposedly protecting the environment and following the 3 Rs. But what has happened definitely center stage, and I only hope it stays for long and for all development process that takes place in future, and not just a temporary phenomena. It remains that the environment, the handling of environmental ecosystem, because I strongly believe that human environment is a coupled system, both impact each other. So it remains at the heart of any development, is something that is a gratifying thing that I find that has happened due to the pandemic and the pandemic-induced lockdown. Having said so, I would also think that there is a lot of difference or lot of gap between what we are saying, what we are designing, and what we are doing. Now that gap needs to be bridged. And once again, I think pandemic is a good time to address this concern. I take Shalini's point that e-waste is definitely something which is really going to become a problem area in our entire system of protecting or safeguarding or regenerating the environment. And this has not been addressed adequately. I think we have been thinking about it. We first thought about in 2011 rules, and then we modified in 2016. And we are still doing something about it as far as e-waste is concerned. I was just having a discussion with Shalini before this webinar that when I was a principal AG in Kerala, I was invited to a school, one of the biggest schools over there, where they had a competition, and that was in 2016. The competition was that anybody who collects broken pieces of e-waste, from whatever it could be, pieces of monitor, anything, whatever, by weight or by bag, I think they had been given some bags or cartons, they would be given prizes or some kind of money. Now that was transformed into the model for banning plastics in many parts of the country, in many areas, many districts of the country. Now, I would think that in this entire process of managing e-waste, the policy, of course, I'll be coming to that a little bit later, uh, has emphasized on the producers, for rightfully so, because they know what the composition is. And also, of course, the government, the various functionaries of government, like the central pollution control boards, the state pollution control boards, and even, in fact, the green tribunals, all said and done, these people are a part of the ecosystem for managing the waste. What their problem is, what I was talking to her about a few minutes ago, was the community. I think unless the community itself participates in this, because the electronic industry now has gone to every nook and corner and is increasing at a very fast pace in the communities. So it is the communities who have to handle this disaster. Now, if I take a similar situation of, let's say, a disaster in the form of a natural disaster in Orissa, if Orissa has become a global model for handling disasters of any kind, including the current pandemic, it is only because of involving community, developing their awareness, developing their resilience. So we have to bring community as a major stakeholder into the process of managing e-waste. I know all of you would be knowing, but when I was myself, I really don't work too much in this area because my domain is largely public finance and education and health. I write about poverty, and I've written about institutional asymmetries. But when you look at this, when I look at this, the statistics of the UN Global E-Waste Monitor 2020, I was quite shocked, because only 17.4%, they say, that is 9.3 million tons of 2019's e-waste was collected and recycled, which basically means 82% were unaccounted and undocumented. Now that really is a startling figure. And that really is a very dangerous, it portends very dangerously for for the way we have managed it so far. There is unquestionably no denying the fact that a huge amount of digitization effort is now required to account for this 82.6%, to document this, because unless you have the data, you really cannot monitor or monitor their performance. So while the guidelines may have prescribed the reduction percentages from time to time, there is actually no mechanism in place to see whether this is being complied with, and whether the compliance is in agreement with what you want to achieve after a certain period of time in terms of recycling. So when I say about digitization, I really I'm very happy that Sanshodhan is talking about the electronic exchange, and I was talking about the electronic marketplace. So fine, we really need to have the people who are producing this waste and the people who can actually make use of this waste. And here again, the question comes whether we will include the recyclers, or we will include even the last mile people who are mostly probably in the informal sector. There is once again no denying the fact that we can't leave 80% of the people who are processing this at the informal level out of the market, because they will have to be mainstream in some way or the other, and that could be through some kind of community organizations that we have to really think about and design for it. But once this marketplace comes, it is, you see, many times we have this fad for electronic exchanges has taken place all over the country. And I am personally involved in doing something for the migrant laborers, let us say. Who are the people with the kind of skills they have, and who are the companies who could actually take their help? But it should not actually stop at that. If it stops at that, it merely becomes a repository of databases. The actual operationalization can take place, just as in case of migrants, only if these companies hire the people with the kind of skills. And similarly here, it is the operationalization of the marketplace or the exchange can take place only when the producer or the people who are going to the cyclers, the recyclers, or the end last mile recyclers, or people who use it or segregate separators, they will have to be actually talking to the people who are producing it. And since we have the extended producer responsibility, there is already an implicit negative tax, probably, hopefully it works that way, involved in it, which should provide some kind of incentive mechanism has to be developed for this market to develop. And so I'm very particular about the fact that you can have a lot of data, you can have a number of rules and regulations, but development of market is a different ballgame altogether. And for the market to function, of course, there are issues relating to the community's response. Community could actually go beyond the market. But assuming that the producers who are producing and the people who are recycling it, they are talking to each other as buyers and sellers, and there is an incentive, which is incentive for both sides, so that there is a discovery of some kind of a price. And let me tell you, there is a lot of price in it, as has been estimated by the United Nations. And that particular price discovery takes place along with the fact that in case there is a market failure, there is a mechanism for government to get in to operate the market. Now, unless this entire ecosystem is developed, I think the real purpose, the goal that we want to see of recycling of e-waste. Let me mind you, I'm not really talking to circular economy now. I'm talking about recycling so far, and that will not take place. So that's really a huge task. So market development is something which I think the first step has been taken by Sanshodhan. Very happy about it. I really didn't know about the tremendous amount of work that's being done by them. Would love to be associated with them further in developing this market. And we have to make people aware of it. And maybe we have to redesign and realign the incentives once again for the producer organizations, the responsibilities that has been assigned to them, and whether the incentives are the negative taxes, if you would like, has to be more explicit or because it is now implicit, whether that is going to work or not. So that we have to work on. The second stage is going a step further, that whether this is what the ideal situation is, to build them into a circular economy, in which case it is not just recycle, you just prevent forming these wastes. So you lessen your use of electronic waste. I think that's what the ultimate goal is going to be. But let us also be realistic and pragmatic in realizing that the economic growth would take place, the use of technology will take place, the use of hardwares will take place, and it is growing by leaps and bounds. So if we have to really be a part of contributing significantly or even partially to managing the environment that we live in post the pandemic, then we have to start thinking this is the right time to at least get people to recycle these 83%. And the first step again would be to document and to have the list of these EPS producers and what they produce, who they sell it to, what is there available. Because you see, in India, governments may have data, but what's happening to people all around? The electronic industry has grown by leaps and bounds, and it is there everywhere in villages. Everyone is offering a freebie, like, you know, if you buy these things, you'll get a mobile free. You'll get. So who is keeping track of this? It's really difficult proposition. So it's a great thing that. So I know that's what I'm saying. It's a great thing Sanshodhan is doing, because the gap between what you want to achieve and what you have now is too much to even think about designing an efficient policy. The first is to get this gap shortened, and then probably think about designing alternate policies if the existing policy of EPR is not really working too well. Lastly, I would like to talk about the people who are going to implement it. It is the pollution control boards. During my 28 years in bureaucracy, I have seen the pollution control boards in at least four states that I have worked in, and also many of these industries who seek pollution clearance. And I was just talking to the Telangana pollution control board representative about the consent to operate and making both the things together. But you see, the point is, let me be very honest, that the pollution control boards nationwide, central as well as state, do not have the staff strength, do not have the technical ability, and do not probably have the kind of awareness that's required to address this serious issue. The very fact that it's a noble thing that you're doing by mixing it along, by taking it as a common consent to operate when you are going to have the consent to operate given, as well as with the with a kind of assurance from the producer that he's also going to take care of e-waste generation. It's a very good thing. But you see how the incentives work there. The incentives work there. If somehow I get the consent to operate and somehow start producing it, the rest will be taken care of. Polluters pay cannot be pollutant pay. I'm very clear. Polluters pay cannot be pollutant pay. And I have written about this in New Indian Express as well. So I think in the end, I would say that our agencies we are ultimately, these agencies would be at the front end, at the cutting edge of managing e-waste. So they will have to have the real amount of staffing, awareness, and the wherewithal, the infrastructure. And for that, they should also collaborate with many such Sanshodhan type institutions all over the country and the community. And only then an ecosystem would be developed which would be serious about managing e-waste in this country. The regulations will come, but its implementation will depend on this, how robust this ecosystem is. With this, I would like to conclude my speech and thank the organizers once again for inviting me, and also not hesitate to say that I am with them in this effort. And anytime you would like me to introduce any of these things amongst groups of MPs or raise about this issue, I think I had given a 0-hour notice last session, didn't get picked up, but on the US, because that's something that has concerned me always. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for providing wonderful insights and sharing your experience and thoughts, and the wonderful proposition you have put forward that we can be introduced further, and we would be very happy to take it up the way you say. That would be good to proceed ahead and really to make it not only the international or national movement, but take it to the level through EPR or the businesses to the global level. While working with the society, where of course around 45% of electronic waste come from the society. And while working with the informal sector, of course, we are working with the informal sector through our 3 social development schemes now. So one is Recycle for Her Education, other is Recycle for Food, and third is Recycle for Life. So these are the 3 things that we have introduced. One is Recycle for Her Education is for the girl child education, and Recycle for Food is for the informal sector, where we see a lot of exploitation and people, they don't get even paid for their work. They are really trying to meet their ends. And Recycle for Life is something where the people who are doing average into this sector, but they are not still having the benefits from the government policies like life insurance policy and other things. Though the government is trying to do a lot with providing the policies for their life insurance, but actually the problem is that they are not identified. So their identity, getting the identity and then mainstreaming them is a bigger issue there we are hammering on. So we would be happy to take it forth along with you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So now I'm inviting our next speaker that we have along with us, Mr. S. Narayanan. Yes.
Thank you.
I welcome you, sir. Very briefly, I will provide an introduction of Mr. S. Narayanan. He's a very important position, and he can do a lot because there are many MNCs and large corporate. They are into this region. Sir, may I request you to have your camera is on, but I think you lower the screen a little bit so that we can see you. It's going towards ceiling.
Is it fine?
Yes, it is. It is good. So, sir, I'll take a minute to introduce you, and then I'll hand over to you. So with the formal introduction, I'm now introducing our special guest for the day, Mr. S. Narayanan. Mr. Narayanan is an IFS officer. He served at Ministry of SMEs, then as a regional director, after that as a mission director for the National Health Mission. And now he is serving as a member secretary, Pollution Control Board, Haryana. The area that is adjacent to Delhi is having many offices, especially the multinational companies who are the electronic and electrical producer companies also. And there are large companies who are the bulk consumer of electronic and electrical products. His role is quite critical. I'm sure many of us are quite keen to listen to him and learn more about the current challenges and opportunities for the various sectors involved in this. Over to Mr. Asnaran.
Thank you. A warm good evening to all the organizers and the learned participants of the webinar workshop on digitization for extended producers responsibility compliance, recycling and circular economy challenges and opportunities, organized by Sanshodhan and E-Waste Exchange on the occasion of the International E-Waste Management Day. I first of all express my sincere thanks and appreciation to Sanshodhan for organizing a very relevant webinar at a very, very appropriate time also. And my sincere thanks again for them for inviting me to participate in this workshop. So as we all know, the extended producer responsibility provision was introduced in the e-waste management rules of 2016, which technically fixes up the responsibility of any producer of any e-appliances to channelize and manage the e-waste generated in an environmentally friendly and a sound manner. This, of course, includes the take-back system as well as establishment of collection center or both, and to have agreements with the authorized dismantler or refurbisher or recycler through the producer responsibility organization, again through the authorization process which is prescribed in the rules through by the CPCB. Given environment rules, they are actually clearly giving up all the things in a very comprehensive way. And as far as the data are available, we are generating more than 20 lakh million tons of e-waste annually in India. And we also rank the 5th among the e-waste producing countries in the world. Globally, we can say US, China, and I think Japan and Germany are the 4 countries ahead of us. But the worrying factor is that out of this 20 million, more than 20 lakh million metric tons, we hardly have treat around 0.05 metric ton of this one actually, which is quite a low figure comparatively. If you are comparing with the global figures, again only 20% of the e-waste is getting recycled, treated. But that is one way. We are anyway far lower than the global figures. And even this waste is not treated very scientifically, and it is mostly treated in a very, very rude manner as per the studies conducted. There is going to be a very steep increase and multifold increase also in the generation of e-waste in the coming years, considering the wider use of electronic products, and our littering habits are also changing in a very rapid manner. So it is high time that we have to get it very streamlined, else we are again going to face a very embarrassing failure situation so soon, as we have already experienced it in many of the environmental fields. As far as the legislative provisions and the applicability of the same are concerned, as we again know, we have many well thought of provisions, particularly in this particular latest amended rules. Starting from EPR, we have PRO, EPR authorization, EPR plan is there, collection centers are defined, specific target plans are prescribed for the EPR, everything is there. Rule number 5 of the e-waste management rules very clearly provides for the framework under which the producer has to fulfill his responsibility role. It systematically outlines the process of collection and channelization of the e-waste after its end of life of the products. And pre-treatment is to be done before sending them to TSDF for final disposal. And schemes have to be drawn out by the producers for collection of these e-waste after their life, be it be either a deposit refund scheme or through buyback arrangement, whatever possible way, and dissemination of information and awareness of the information in this regard. That is also prescribed in the rule itself. But the issue relating to the imported e-products, that is again rather taken care of in these rules. I have earlier worked in customs department for some times, and that time we were having a sense that a huge amount of hazardous waste, because that was in the late 90s or in the early 90s, you can say, before that Basel Protocol and other things were actually Montreal Protocol and other things were happening into the field. We were having a large import of this hazardous waste into India in various names, and they get actually dumped into all the Asian and African countries, were used almost like a backyard for the developed countries. Especially India, the surrounding nations were used actually largely, and our people were very merrily, they were importing it without understanding the overall impact on the environment. And of course, our environmental rules were also very flexible, and they were not actually very strictly implemented, to be very frankly telling you that way. The trend continued in early 2000 with more quantum of e-waste that time actually. Even e-waste coming up in the pre-2000 also, but after 2000, when the developed countries started rather sensing the actual importance of this particular e-waste, they started rather exporting it to the developing nations. And that is, we are still groping around without any idea or even suspicion, whatever is coming up. In many of the products, actually, Japan say jo bhi aa raha hai, that they are all actually giving it after some usage, so that the final end product has to be rather actually dumped here only. So, of course, the present rules provide for permission for such import of e-products only to those producers who have the EPR authorization. For such authorization also, the rules have laid out very elaborate procedure to be followed by Central Pollution Control Board. The amendment in these rules, which came into 2018, as was explained by Telangana engineer, they have provided for targets for collection of these e-waste. However, as Dr. Amarnath said, there is actually, despite all these optimistic provisions and exhaustive guidelines, we find the implementation at ground level very, very poor. Reasons are many. I'm not going into each and everything very minutely. India as such is actually in many other parameters of environmental governance is performing very poorly. It ranks almost 175 to 177 amongst the 180 countries in the Environmental Performance Index survey, which was released by the World Economic Forum a couple of years back. Our pollution control agencies are again poorly equipped, both in terms of manpower. Rightly, our member of parliament told, both in manpower as well as in terms of the technical or scientific or legal knowledge to implement them effectively. Further, the role of the informal sector in the collection and recycling of this e-waste is another dimension which cannot be ignored in the overall strategy. Availability and collation of the data are again a major challenge in this field, without which a professional approach or policy cannot be implemented, however strong our rules and provisions are. Dr. Shalini was rightly pointing it out. Unless we have these things measured totally, we cannot rather actually plan a very systematic plan or a strategy or a policy. Broadly, we can say that this poor information on e-waste generation, environmentally unsustainable informal sector practices, lack of market for the end of life products. That is again mainly due to the inability to reliably source the e-waste quantities that create the economies of scale, which restricts the entry of many private players, say PROs for that matter, to set up the e-waste management systems. And as I told earlier, the inadequate regulatory system and enforcement are the key issues or challenges which can be again, which need to be addressed at the larger sense. In this regard, I find the role of organization like yours, that is Sanshodhan, very crucial, because they provide a very commendable platform for all the stakeholders, connecting the producers, dismantlers, recyclers, boards, government departments, waste treatment and disposal facilities and others, with an assured design of aggregating the e-waste from every part of the country, so that the e-waste generated through many sources are channelized and getting recycled through digital systems. That is a digital platform system. And this crucial point for successful implementation of these rules is a very reliable inventory is very much actually mandatory, and a digital system to connect all the stakeholders in a dependable manner. That is more important. The role played by Sanshodhan in that way becomes very, very significant. And as a member secretary of this State Pollution Control Board of Haryana, I can share with you that it may take many years for us. If you are leaving it to on our head or the government head, actually it is not going to happen. For example, any other government department also to inventorize and channelize these data if we want to do it ourselves. One, because as I told you, we don't have manpower. Secondly, we don't have expertise. And the appropriate option is to outsource it and engage professionals so that the exact role played by the enforcement agencies as well as the individual stakeholders can become very crystal clear, and accountability can be fixed very much actually. Otherwise, this becomes a very flexible part. Despite the fact that the rules have been issued in 2016, I'll tell you the progress in their implementation is not very much enviable. Annual reports are sent, compiled, and shared. I don't deny. But if you specifically ask me how many violators have been identified in this regard, then we can immediately zero in on the efficacy of implementation. Obviously, this has not taken on priority by any of our stakeholders. And as I said earlier, we cannot afford to ignore further in the future days to come. I have no inhibition to accept that we have to go a long way in this direction, and I'm very happy to observe that it is getting geared up slowly in all other fronts actually. Every stakeholder is taking it up seriously, and they are actually taking up the policy decisions regarding this announcement of incentives. Again, even some of the things actually, a couple of days back, I was discussing with the Chief Minister Office. Again, we were actually thinking about giving some policy incentives also. This can be either in the form of a concession or rebate for ensuring the compliance of the rules. And we have to rather ensure regular monitoring of collection targets at the board level or government level, which are very crucial parameters to be rather actually monitored at our level. I'm hopeful that this will pick up momentum and get organized on a proper shape. Haryana State Pollution Control Board is also looking forward for taking part in such an initiative, as has already been started by the state of Telangana, state government of Telangana. Probably they are a little ahead of us. We are in dire need of an effective EPR system to be placed urgently in place. And we have in our state around 11 recyclers, 26 dismantlers, and 2 refurbishers registered in our state so far. There may be many people who are working very informally, but we have to rather count them in. There are 4 PROs registered in the state of Haryana through CPCB. And in this workshop, I can see that there are very relevant and important topics covering almost all the important aspects of e-waste management and EPR scenario of e-waste management in India, the opportunities and the challenges of EPR in India, the importance of responsible recycling through environmentally sound recycling technologies, with the comparative case study from Singapore and digitization for circular economy and EPR compliance, and there are many other eminent speakers who are presenting these topics. I'm very hopeful that this webinar will bring out very valuable suggestions for making policy decisions, enabling successful implementation of the rules, and help us to create a very robust e-waste management system. I once again thank Dr. Shalini for organizing such a relevant workshop at a very appropriate time, and my sincere thanks for inviting me to participate in the webinar. Thank you all, and my wishes for a successful outcome in this workshop. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for providing these insights. And of course, pleasure is entirely ours for having you here with us. And thank you for providing, squeezing in your schedule and just coming for us for this much of time. I was even talking to so many speakers and the attendees, like our schedule is entirely full, and we are having the participants that are like overflowing. Some people already registered, they are not here, but others are there just trying to enter into the conference, but it is not happening now. But we will be live streaming. We thought to live stream this, but we will be floating this recording also. later on. So the YouTube link also we will be providing to all the speakers, and later on you can share it with the participants. And thank you, sir. We look forward working with you. And whenever you suggest moving ahead, we would be more than happy to come over and initiate the activities as per the guidance for the region you are in.
Thank you, Dr. Shubhi. Thank you very much.
So now I think, yeah, okay, it's me. Probably, so I need to provide a little bit of background and the activities that we are doing. So I will take quick 5 minutes for sharing the presentation, what we are working on. And then we will move ahead for the other panelists to share the presentation. So just give me a moment. I'll be coming back with the presentation. In the meantime, we are initiating the poll so that the audience can continue with this. Please address your answers here. The poll is about to come, and yes, it is. So thank you for providing your reply. And we can see the first question was, what measures are required to manage the e-waste? And of course, setting the procedures for all these segments, for establishing the collection bins, drop centers, and all of above. So there are various activities that need to be done at the national level for managing the electronic waste. And as you rightly said, as the audience, we have noted your replies. So here I'm sharing a brief, just in 5 minutes, that what exactly we are and what we do. Today we organize this webinar on digitization for EPR compliance and circular economy. Where the background comes from is this scenario where we can see a lot of informal sectors and more than 65% of child labor. Then there are mines that are even reaching to their capacity for the metals that is being extracted for being used into the electronic and electrical products. And there are so many people who are moving into the category, they can afford different electronic and electrical products and the gadgets. So that's one way it's a good thing, but other way, the environmental degradation, if it is not taken care for the sustainable development. So this is what we are. We connect the businesses with the government authorized and technically competent e-waste dismantlers and recyclers for assured recycling and resource recovery. And where we come from is from e-waste management rules 2016, where it is clearly mentioned that out of 3 type of organizations, one is recycler, PRO, and e-waste exchange. These are the 3 categories who are authorized to operate into this electronic waste management sector. So there we are. If you want to see our detail in the e-waste management rules 2016 and amendments 2018, right from the definition to our responsibility, it is given there that e-waste exchange as a digital platform can not only support the producers for the EPR compliance, but they also can channelize the waste and support the governance for the data-backed decision making. A lot of national and international media has covered us for the innovations that we made, and I will be explaining that to you briefly. We were published by United Nations and UNIDO and UNEP for the very first time in 2018. And after that, it was a kind of a series where International SDG Knowledge Hub and a lot of awards from the World Economic Forum to BMU Federal Republic of Germany. And in India, we are the winner of Swachh Bharat Grand Challenge 2018. And also recently, we achieved an award from Government of Uttarakhand for e-waste artifact designing. We work with the society for not only for awareness, but for the collection drives. We have worked with Yes Bank and GHMC for doing Recyclathon. We have strategic partnership all over the country, international organizations as well. So where what we do into the EPR area is that we innovated the digital PRO system, and that was published by GIZ and Adelphi, Terry and CII in September 2018, where it is designed entirely to take care of this incremental targets that are given to the companies. So why, what are the challenges into the EPR compliance? Why the companies are unable to meet, and we see a lot of work is to be done at the background. But some of the challenges I'm highlighting here, it's not all. But intent to establish the system, when we see this incremental target, it is not something a recurring expenditure that can be done on this. This really need a comprehensive system, a plan to be in place that will help the companies to meet these incremental targets and then sustain their target at 70% and later on. So first of all, the companies, generally electronic and electrical product manufacturers, they are having the say financial margins of around 200% or 300%, and if even 2 to 3% of that in profits are invested into establishing the system in the country and the state, I think that will be giving a lot of benefits to the country and society as such. Second is the non-standard pricing. So India and some other developing country are still in the habit of trading the electronic waste. So that is what that for the developed country, it becomes an attractive market where they take the recycling fee in developed country and they export their electronic waste to the developing country to recycle it. And again, there is a pricing structure on that. So that becomes an extra bonanza for the exporters. So then informal sector is quite high, more than 80% who work as a cheap labor, and then policy is silent on the informal sector. Of course, that is not the role over there, but still something need to be done for the informal sector because they are the one who are on the ground for the aggregation. Then systems, then produce shall plan. So there is a lot of things given for coming up with the sustainability plan and all. So that need to be done with the help of the experts who can really deliver the quality work, develop the good blueprints for the big companies, so that the companies can prevent these kind of situation. The news generally we see that there was a lack of traceability, and then something happened with at the back end. So we provide end-to-end solution for not only for the aggregation, that is we do a later part, but we do more on the monitoring and verification side, providing this support for sustainability plan and all. So this is what for the producer companies. For consumer companies, the bulk consumers, they don't find a safe destination for recycling. So we provide an online channel for directly channelizing their electronic waste. We do a waste footprint mapping, like carbon footprint mapping. We map the waste for the large companies, conglomerates, offices, so that we can help them to become zero waste and the circular. So unless you map, how you will manage. So that is our fundamental. And for the recycling companies, of course, we do feasibility plans and DPR development, technology selection and adaptation for setting up the good dismantling and recycling unit. For these innovations, this is published by the World Economic Forum about us. And this is a circular economy standard, the India's first circular economy standard, where we help the companies to turn zero waste, and the companies who are willing to move ahead from zero waste, turn circular using the resources, wisely, and for making a profit, various social, environment, and economic benefit out of it. So we help the companies to become circular also. For the largest of some of the largest companies, even including the income tax department, customs, United Nations, Swiss Confederation, we have already worked. With Microsoft, we have signed NDA. Tata Chemicals, we have today with us also. There is a lot of progress going on. And basically our fundamental is to simplify the statistics, enhance transparency, add credibility, and make the social, environmental, and economic impact. With this, we work for digitization, for transformation, for compliance, for circular economy. That's all from my end at present. Thank you so much. I will take you back to our conference.
Great.
Yes, over to you, sir.
It was nice to hear our activities. It's good. I mean, you have done really great work, and I'm glad that we are sharing it with our people who are interested, and I hope we can inspire more of them to join us and work with us, and that we become a larger family.
Yeah, that would be great. So the aim is to have more and more people joining us, and of course, building up the synergies. I'm just taking a moment to come back to the other presenters. Just a second. Can you still see our screen, or we are off the screen now?
No, we can see the screen. It's still your last slide, so maybe you'll have to share the screen with us. Yes, now. Shalini, there are also a lot of questions, so maybe someone then afterwards also can try to read and answer them afterwards.
Yes, we are having. Yeah, so we are having one question about with Mr. Narayan, and thank you for insights. That's only a response that is given by a participant. There is a question. I think member secretary pollution control boards will be good to answer this. Almost a decade sincerely, the e-waste rules have been introduced. The problem of 95% of e-waste going to unorganized sector is not addressed. How do you take it? So we will park this question when we will be having all the member secretaries, or if any speaker would like to address on this, we would be happy to share it with the participant. So with this, we are moving to the next speaker, Dr. Ashok Kumar. So we have with us Dr. Ashok Kumar, who is the Vice Chairman of Greenscape Eco Management, and is the Chairman of E-Waste Management Committee also at MRAI, that is a Recycling Association of India, Material Recycling Association of India. I request Dr. Ashok Kumar to share his views on the e-waste management scenario in India. So that will be helpful for participants to understand. There are various questions around the informal sectors and the percentage. So I think your response will be helpful for enlighten them on this area. Over to you, Dr. Ashok Kumar.
Good evening to the speakers and to the people. And I would like to touch upon certain issues which has not been taken care by my earlier speakers. And I would like to discuss few issues which are becoming very thrust area after the e-waste rules 2016 came into effect, and later on 2018. And now in EPR, there are certain issues which requires immediate attention of regulating authorities as well as the recyclers and the informal sector. All the earlier speaker have discussed that how much quantity of e-waste is generated in India or the worldwide. That's right. You know, this waste, everybody talks about this as a waste. So I'm always discussing this thing. If it is a waste, then it should not be taken care. It's not waste, it's a resource. So it has to be taken care very carefully. because in this waste we have rare earth, which is going to be impossible to mine from the nature. So we have to preserve these rare earths. So we have to talk that what is the benefits of this e-waste recycling or material recycling. Every government worldwide is thinking to preserve their rare earths. So wherever there is a more consumption of electronic items, there is bound to be huge quantity of rare earths. The China is keeping huge quantity of rare earths to produce very, very what you can say critical equipments for every electronics. So as in India, we have 2 million tons of e-waste, but according to various studies, this 2 million ton is very meager figure. It is more because we don't have inventorization of our e-waste things, because no pollution control board or anybody has their states how much e-waste is being produced, who are the producers bringing the e-waste by way of various triple E. So these issues requires discussions in this webinar. We know the e-waste is a problem, but how to resolve this problem is also very, very essential at this point of time when we are in the pandemic or we have so many other pollution problems. So this problem of e-waste has to be measured economy wise as well as environment. Environment and economy has to go together. And in the last 50 years in India, the informal sector has been predominantly taking care of the circular economy as their livelihood. It's very clear from the data that only 30% or 25 to 30% is being officially recycled. If we see the details from the CPCB, the quantity for recycling facility is just 700,000 tons. And if we produce 2 million tons, so 700,000 tons is nothing. And if we see the Form 4 or the Form 3, which has been submitted last year for 18-19, the quantity will be much lower. So what is the problem? Why the e-waste is not being coming to the formal sector? The formal sector is not giving awareness along with the producers to the informal sector. The informal sector is very, very important in this e-waste business, because what is waste, how it is coming, the collection, the segregation, the disposal is very important. And who will be collecting? The formal sector is not able to collect the material. The informal sector is collecting for the last 50 years from the household, from the colleges, from various places, because the money is involved. So how to bring the informal sector with the formal sector is the important issue in India. Worldwide, if we will see that how the e-waste is being treated or is recycled, the technology. In India, if we see, where is the technology? There is no technology at all. We are just dismantlers. We are just small melting the metals and recycling few plastics. Is it enough? The government of India or the e-waste rules measures by way of area. Are we going to promote the area? The 300 tons or 500 tons, where is the technology? If you see Singapore, if you see Japan, Doha, if you see Germany, if you see Europe, in less than 2 acres or 10,000, they are recycling more than 50,000 to 60,000 tons because they have a technology. We do not have a technology. And the need of the hour is not the area. The need of the hour is what best technology we can bring for recycling efficiently and with more productivity for that. We have good labor, we have good people, but we do not have technology. We have land, but is the land enough to take care of the waste which is coming? We say we want it to be zero waste. How we will be zero waste? Because if we do not bring the informal sector along with the formal sector, all these recyclers which has mushroomed in the last 3 years, are looking for something else than of recycling. E-waste exchange or the PROs are definitely helping. I would like to give you one figure that whatever is the waste there, it contains 18% of copper. So therefore, what they do, they just go and take out the copper from the various equipments, EEE, and burn the plastic in the dumps, and that is coming and harming the environment to our children, future children. So what should we do? We should organize along with the government and the producers that you are bringing hazardous waste by way of importing a lot of electronic items. So it is their duty also, along with the recyclers, to have the best technology to take care of this. Then we recover rare earths. We recover metal properly with the sound management system of the environment, and also make sure that all the technology is provided to the recyclers. So they should give more incentives for providing the technology, not for the land or for other things. This is my idea, and speakers can always discuss on this issue. Then we have aluminum, which is coming 12% out of this, 50% is other metals coming in. So these all are resources, unless and until it is wasted through the informal sector. They are doing all backward recycling, no doubt they are doing good job, but the awareness, and as far as the formal sector is concerned, our thrust area should be to have the best technology to bring all these informal sectors together, and because they will be very helpful in collecting the material for us. We do not have any system by which we can collect this much quantity of 2 million tons. So this is very, very important that e-waste exchange or PROs or other recyclers should go and do the awareness with the formal sector, bring them to their fold and request them that they should bring the material to them, and they should not do any dismantling in between. I would like to discuss another issue, that all the EEE manufacturers, the producers, whether it is Apple, Dell, Cisco, they are going in a big way of recycling their products, and they wanted that whatever is the product they are manufacturing should have 50% recycled items. Government of India has already taken a view on this, that 25% of the infrastructure has to be manufactured from the recycled products. Those who will be doing the recycled products as they are manufacturing, they will be given green certificates like carbon credits, and that so will help us to have a better technology in India. So my issue is that when the EEE is going with a 23% compound rate, it is the right time that we must bring the same practices what 67% of the world is doing, because today the world is recycling more than 67% of their waste, and India is only doing 21%, and that is even a very small figure, but it can be little bit here and there. So we want that the technology, the productivity and efficiency should be brought in the recycling area. The government is definitely working. The e-waste, which is monitored by the electronic department, is also bringing the technology. But is it that technology enough? If you have 2 million tons, you have to bring best technology like Umicore has, or DOA has, or Orabis has. So we have to have that sort of things like lithium batteries has to be recycled in India. What are the various technologies which are available? We should also bring this technology very fast so that we are able to care our demand for the electronics. The phones which we are using contains huge precious metals, rare earths. So we would like to make sure that most of the these products which are coming end of life have to be recycled. The people have to make sure that they hand over these electronic gadgets to the recyclers instead of giving it to the other informal sector people. So awareness, that's very important. You know, in Europe itself, more than 100 million mobile phones are lying in the drawers as a waste that is not coming. So it contains a lot of rare earth. As I mentioned, that only 7.82 million tons are being recycled in India against a total about 3 million tons of generation. In last 3 years, the recyclers have gone up from 178 to 312. But where is the technology? There's no technology because people are looking into the EPR and other soaps, and therefore they are mushrooming. I would like to share another data which is very important, is 6R. In India, we have to have 6R for green: refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, and rethink. We have to rethink on this, that whether we should have better technology, better efficiency, and better coordination between the government and the producers. The producers have to be discussed with what are the technologies they have, the recyclers have brought, how their material is being recycled, and it has to be documented. The CPCB is thinking that from January 2021 or maybe from April 21, they will be uploading all the data of recycling facility from the time it has been collected and how it has been recycled and where the downstream has gone. They are checking it. As my predecessors have already discussed, that there is no staff available with CPCB, or there are state pollution control boards do not have that much staff as well as knowledge to take care how the things are moving. So the best way is that they can always check how material is being disposed of, and whether it is going into the hands of the informal sector, if the producers or the service centers are giving this material to the people who are giving high price for this their end of life products, then definitely it is going to be in the hands of the informal sector. The exchange, the Sanshodhan exchange is doing good job by way of bringing a lot of people together. So we should, as the recyclers, as the producers, must discuss along with the exchanges so that the necessary things are being carried out, and money should, the consideration should not be the only consideration for their products. It has to be a good quality recycling. So another issue is that in India, for the last few years, what has happened? In 1970, we were only using the fuels, fossils, and metals to the extent of 1.18 billion, which has gone to 7.4 billion in 1970. And from here, it will go to 3 times by 2030. Means that it can touch about 21 billion tons of our natural resources. So that will have an impact on the environment. So therefore, the recycling facilities has to be brought in every state to take care of the logistics of the end of life equipments, and the producers have to discuss all their issues and also their requirements and the targets with the recyclers in a very cordial and very good manner, so that we work together with them. So these are the few issues which requires immediate attention of all the recyclers, the PROs, as well as the informal sector and the government agencies. So our conclusion word will be that let's sit together, have awareness, and must make sure that all the material reaches to the recyclers, and the recyclers also take care of their job as well as their duty to recycle with best technology available, or bring the best technology from the international people who have a lot of experience in this. Thank you very much again to Dr. Shalini for bringing me on this webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for providing these insights. I think your experience of these many years was speaking about the current scenario, and you have very well put up the requirements also, that what can be done and what should be. So we will be looking forward working more together and bringing more recycling community together to provide the desired results, not only for the government, but more for the society and
Yes,
community.
that's right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And to my speakers also who have really brought in light to this issues, whether it is Dr. Narayanan as well as Mr. Kumar Pathak and our Member of Parliament, Mr. Patnaik. It's really, really interesting that, and we should, and I will request you that we should have this sort of seminars or the webinars along with the government officials, at least in a quarter, once we can have this sort of discussion, so that we can always discuss our problems and we can resolve the things which are happening in this domain.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Ashok Kumar, we agree, and I think it's also a very important and very nice that Shalini is able to get response, and also there is so much openness from government side where they are willing to come and sit with us and discuss and share their experience and also listen to us. I think that's a very good beginning of this whole purpose of this network.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that once this Telangana people have said that we give the incentives for the first 5, so I don't think so that they should consider only first 5 people who have come to there, because it is the important thing is this direct question is to Dr. Kumar Pathak, that let's discuss that what are the scopes to be given to the new entrants, because the entry barriers, they should not do it. They should allow that whosoever bring the best technology, they should consider, and those who are bringing good systems and the environment also they are protecting, they must give more scope to them.
We will try to look into this, how exactly, but they are having some incentive mechanism. Actually, it is a kind of a mechanism to save time or probably to incentivize the first movers, but let us have a look on this.
Thank you very much being.
So I'm glad that all who are so enthusiastic about and who are concerned about, who are so responsible about, are here with us. And in this series, I call on our next speaker, Dr. Richard Lobo. So Dr. Richard Lobo is from Tata Chemicals, the company of Tata Group that is known worldwide for its ethical business practices and innovation. Let's listen from Dr. Richard Lobo, who is the head of innovation and CQH business excellence. He is the top management team member of Tata Chemicals India, the company that produces basic chemistry products, energy, nutritional, material, and agroscience products. Today, Dr. Richard Lobo is going to talk about their unique initiative that is about founding India's first sustainable and circular lithium-ion battery. Over to you, Dr. Richard Lobo.
Thank you, Shalini. I hope my presentation and I'm being heard properly. Is that good?
Yes.
Thank you. So first and foremost, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues who are joining from India. I understand there are international participants as well. And thank you, Dr. Shalini, for organizing this and to the e-waste exchange. My gratitude to Mr. Dr. Amar, a member of parliament, our very esteemed IAS and IFS officers of the nation. You truly anchor the leadership role for us, and thank you for taking time to come here. It's an August gathering. Mr. Deepak Gadia, who also leads and directs the e-waste journey, and my fellow industrialists who have joined here today and panelists. I'm going to take just a few minutes to talk about the journey of how Tata Chemicals views sustainability and e-waste, primarily in the area of circular economy. And we've been focusing on the lithium-ion battery as part of the e-waste mechanism. So kindly bear with me as I talk about a few slides giving a context to who and what we are. We all know about the Tata Group in the country, an exalted brand that believes in leadership with trust in everything that we do. And Tata Chemicals is part of this very prestigious and very respected brand. And rooted in everything that we do is a genesis of our founder, where he said that the very purpose of business is taking care of society and giving back to society. And the stakeholder plays a very important role as we deliver our mechanisms and our business opportunities. This is a picture of Meterpur, where the Tata salt, which we all use every day, comes from, apart from other chemistry compounds. And Tata Chemicals was founded in 1939 and today is a global company spread across the world, as you can see in this subsequent slide. And we are into a number of chemistry compounds ranging from soda ash, which is also called sodium carbonate. It goes into glass and detergents. We are the world's third largest between the US, UK, Kenya, and India operations. Soda ash application is such that every fourth or the fifth car that you see on the road in India or truck that you see on the road in India, the glass paint would be made from Tata Chemicals soda ash. Or any detergent that you pick up in the country would have Tata Chemicals soda ash in it. So that's the extent of the use of this compound. In the agri sector, there's a company called Rallis, which is part of our group. And we reach about 13 million farmers every year, covering about 80% of India's arable landscape. By and large, what the message is that we tend to make sure that the science that we leverage is delivered for good. And let me come closer home, because this is a topic on electronic waste. In the core of the company's mission is serving society through science. And anything that we do, any innovation, any business model that we would like to create is rooted in this. But while we serve society through science, it's very critical and important for us that we engage with our communities and create magical moments for them as part of giving back, because this is the ethos of the Tata Group. And that is the genesis of our circular economy model. It is less to do about profits, but is a lot to do about people and the planet. And profits is an outcome of the approaches, the processes, and the research and development that we do. So to give you an example, Tata Chemicals launched a few years ago the world's cheapest water purifier. It purifies at the extent of 10 paise per liter. And today it impacts 2 million households right in the rural part of India. And we empower local entrepreneurship. Youth in villages who would like to pick up this cause become entrepreneurs, and we skill them with it. Here's a picture of what I find very close to my heart. These are children who are running back to school because the school bell has rung, but look at the happiness on their face. But it's an assurance that these children, these future of India, are drinking water that's pure, that's clean, that's free from toxins and arsenic, which is found in most of the groundwater in the country today. Here are some more pictures, and I'm just moving on. Another example of what Tata Chemicals is doing is putting up United Kingdom's first industrial scale carbon capture project. What we are doing is going to suck 40,000 tons of carbon dioxide from the air, and we're going to convert that into a food and a pharma grade product. And this is technology innovation. It is about pushing the boundaries and the barriers to make sure that we are focused on the people, on the planet, while we pursue business aspects. Let me now talk about something that all of us have joined on this call for. And Tata Chemicals took up the nation's call for electrification and the journey of making sure that India becomes self-reliant. And we have examined to put up a giga-scale factory for manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries in order to make sure that there is a self-reliance in India. While we were examining that, our first thoughts well, what would happen if there was a battery manufactured by Tata Chemicals? Where would it go? And we were very clear that there will be no in-house waste and there will be no battery of Tata Chemicals which will land anywhere in a landfill or will not have a mechanism for recycling. So we started working on recycling of lithium-ion batteries even before we have put up the battery manufacturing plant. And this is the circular economy that's there for you to see. On the right side, you will see the battery manufacturing. It moves into lithium recycling, and ultimately it will go back into manufacturing a battery because we will purify the compounds to make the battery active materials and move it back in. And over time, Tata Chemicals has signed MOUs as well as engagements with a number of institutions of national importance in the country, including ISRO and CSIR labs. I believe this is a picture that is close to everybody's heart. Everybody knows this. We do realize that there are a number of children that are also employed in the unorganized sector. Despite all the efforts of NGOs and the government, it is taking time to change the way our economy moves when it comes to e-waste and e-waste recycling. And this e-waste does lead to a lot of systemic and societal problems. So we decided that we will focus on the battery part of it while we are engaging and looking at it. So if you consider the lithium-ion battery today, it does end up in landfills. We all know that batteries, once they start leaking and leaching, it will create contamination of soil and groundwater. It will have catastrophic impacts over long periods of time. Mining by itself creates issues of ecological disturbances. And of course, there is a problematic supply chain. We are all aware of cobalt being linked to artisanal mining in East Africa. And lithium and nickel, both are precious resources that also don't come very easy and is not very indigenously found in India. The approach that Tata Chemicals has done is we will take a battery and we will first examine for the state of health of each of the battery cells. We don't believe in destroying a material that possibly still holds value. So while we have started on the recycling of critical metals, we have begun indigenous R&D to make sure that we are able to identify this state of health, and we will be able to put up programs where we will be able to reuse, repurpose these batteries, and only when they are not able to meet the standards that are required for giving energy storage applications, either to a mobile or a laptop or an electric vehicle or an energy storage solution or a drone, it will then go into recycling for critical metals. We have a very successfully run lithium recycling operations today. And we are proud that we have founded India's very first circular economy on the lithium-ion battery. We are able to extract cobalt, lithium, nickel, and manganese at a 99% purity. We have chosen the hydrometallurgical route because it is safe and gentle on the environment. It allows us to do zero liquid discharge, zero solid waste, and also be able to abate about 5 tons of carbon dioxide per ton of lithium batteries that you recycle. But more importantly, what it does is ensures that there is Atmanirbhar Bharat. It ensures that there is a spurring up of local economy because we are able to then move the local value chain. We are able to make sure that there is lesser imports on critical materials that India needs today and in the future. It also delivers a lot of social impact. And Dr. Shalini and I have spent innumerable amount of hours debating and trying to find solutions of how we can use our science for good in linking back to the children that are employed in the value chain of e-waste dismantling in India, and how can NGOs contribute to the cause and make sure that they do better and we give them a better life. So let me sum up what we do today. The focus is on building a circular economy. Every gram of critical metal needs to be able to contribute and deliver in the service of the nation so that we are not reliant on importing too many critical metals. One of our esteemed speakers ahead of me spoke about China having a monopoly on many rare earth and critical metals, and this is a good start. I think it's something that all of us together should start focusing on to be able to get there and deliver the reliance, not just for our businesses, but for the country and the nation at large. We do ensure that there is a strong focus on sustainable and climate consciousness, be it zero liquid discharge, zero solid waste, or reduction of carbon footprint, a zero link to child labor in the supply chain of the batteries that we source, and obviously making sure that the people that work in our plant are delivering with safety. So this is a very important area, and e-waste and lithium recycling, as you know, is new to the country, and the technology is new to the country. With that, I would like to thank all of you for your kind time and attention, and I'm happy to answer questions as we go along. Thank you very much, and Dr. Shalini, thanks once again for inviting me.
Thank you so much for providing these insights and the wonderful work that is going on. It was actually the need of an hour because there is so much of electric vehicles going to come up, and the need of the battery is rising, and it is bound to rise further. So a lot of work is being done by you, and it's very timely initiative. I hope all the corporates will be able to do something in this area so that they can meet the demand of the rare earth metals that is going to pop up for with the development, for sure.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for providing your time today. You came out from the audit 10, just you're here with us. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini.
So with this, we are moving towards the next speaker, but let's have a poll in the mid. And this is open for you to answer, a very quick answer. And then we will move towards the next speaker. Request all the participants to please respond to the poll. Wow, this is amazing answer, and I think this is just stopped here because it's 100% to saying yes, that digitization is required for e-waste management policy compliance. So when 100% answer is already there, I end this poll in between and we go to the next question. Thank you, audience, for coming up with this and applying so quickly. So we are going for the third question. The question says that the world is moving fast towards digitization in each sector, and why the use of digital technologies is so slow in regulatory space. Choose the status or the reasons or the multiple choice. So here we are going to end this poll. I hope everybody replied. Just 2 more seconds. And the answer is here. The digitization in the policy compliance space is slow because mostly people says lack of capacities or the knowledge, but second answer is about it's under government, then willingness and innovativeness is lacking. So thank you so much, audience. We will come back with the poll again. And let's move to our next speaker for the day. Oh, yes. So we have our next speaker, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, but we just got a news that he's stuck somewhere. So he will be joining us about at around 6 p.m. So in the meantime, we move to the next speaker further. We have Mr. Dr. A.L.N. Rao, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Exigo Recycling. I welcome Dr. Alan Rao with us today. He's known as one of the environment-friendly, responsible recyclers who are working to expand their recycling units pan-India. And no wonder if within few years they emerge as some of the largest recyclers in the country. Over to you, Dr. Alan Rao. We can see your screen, but we are unable to hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Yes.
How about now? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you now, but the screen is gone. So I think.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, great. Thank you, Shalini. Pleasure being here. And topic of discussion that's been given to me is actually EPR. So it's an interesting topic, I would say. So let's start. EPR, as per the rules in 2016, guidelines on implementation of e-waste management, it's a responsibility of every producer of EEE equipments for channelization of e-waste to an authorized dismantler, recycler to ensure environmentally sound management of such waste. Very nice definition per se. Three aspects: for the producer, it's economic responsibility, physical responsibility, and informative responsibility. Economic responsibility, it is all the spends that are there, all the costs that are there for ensuring that the product, right from giving birth till the end of life and recycling, is the responsibility of the producer as far as the costs are concerned. Physical responsibility is basically he's involved in the management of the products or their effects, in the sense that right from the time the journey of the product overall that happens until this time it goes into recycling or refining, say, it's also the responsibility of the producer. The ownership remains with the producer throughout of the product's life cycle. And the informative responsibility is two aspects. One is giving information about the products, the good and bad of the products to the general public and all stakeholders, but also, sharing of information to recyclers or the people who matter, the stakeholders in recycling and trying to extract the best that's there of the products. So we've seen that in the rules for the producer, very stringent provisions has been, announced. One is the estimation of e-waste generation. So that information, I think over a period of time, there's been a lot of discussions that took place and with all stakeholders, and finally a set formula was formulated to calculate the e-waste that needs to be collected and recycled. So it starts from the e-waste generation and goes on to the targets of collections and moves on to a plan. Then each producer is responsible to submit a plan of action for the next few years' time on how is it that the producer is going to ensure the collection takes place, and also inform the general public on the ways and means of the good and bad of the product, and so on and so forth. There are very many points that's been mentioned by the in the guidelines. Also the collection and storage plans, how do you ship the products, the channelization plans, it's there. Collection centers, collection points, that's another aspect that's been mentioned. Dismantlers and recyclers to play a very vital part, and what's the connect that needs to be there between the producer and the dismantler recycler. And finally the TSDF, if any sludge or any that cannot be recycled, where to be disposed. So clearly guidelines have been given by the government. It's a fantastic job that's been done by the government. Kudos to them. Now, the key stakeholders in this entire ecosystem are the government, the producer, the dismantler, recycler, the informal sector, PROs, bulk consumers, and the end consumer too. So what we've seen is in the past decade, the rules got announced in 2011, 2012, 2016, the EPR rules came in 2018, the amendments came in. Now we've seen that there's a good progression that's been made, right? 312 recyclers out there who've actually got registered, over 1,500 producers who have actually got registered. So there's a nice evolution of the ecosystem that's actually got stabilized now, or is getting stabilized now, and across the ecosystem, multiple stakeholders. The initial questions that used to be why me? I mean, why should I? Should I actually be responsible? I mean, these were the sort of questions that were coming in the initial years, and the progression that's happened to now is I have to. Now it's come to that situation, and all stakeholders are in the same, saying that I have to. That's something. So in this, what I'm trying to look at is I'm trying to give you a few ground realities of a few like the collection centers, awareness, the PROs, and recycling. Now let's take the first point as far as the collection of the producers' collection. What's happening currently in the situation in the country is most of the accountability as far as the collection is concerned is actually outsourced either to a recycler or to a PRO. That's the ground level situation now. Is that the preferred one? No. They expect the producer to actually come out with their own solutions. The suggestions that's been given, buyback programs, that's been announced by the government as one of the ways how you can source. Has it started? Yes, it's just started. Is it something where we can actually take it forward in an aggressive way? Of course it can be done. Challenges there, very many. Why? It's double taxation, volumetric products, shipping, logistics costs, so on and so forth. There are very many issues there. There are no laws for refurbishment or exchange products. That needs to be, it's a $2-3 billion industry, refurbishment industry. So that's an area that's currently, which has not been addressed at all. DRS scheme, you ask any CFO of any producer, he said it's not viable at all. There are very many reasons for that. Bulk consumers, that's a very important subject where everybody talk about bulk consumers. Now, what's being done, even though small mention in the guidelines has been there in the rules, but is there something actually happening? Is there an accountability there? Is it being looked at? Compliance has been looked at in a very serious way. Of the bulk consumers, no. I mean, we're not there. So it's more to do that the highest bidder wins. That's what. Even in government, for that matter, in multiple meetings by all stakeholders with the government, there's been a lot of promises that's been done of the e-waste that's being sold by the government. Current situation, no, it's all to the highest bidder. That's what it is. So currently what's happening as far as EPR is concerned is for target achievement. It's only a document submission. I mean, if I'm able to submit the documents on time and if everything is perfect, that's enough. That's more than enough. Is that what EPR is all about? Is that what e-waste recycling is all about in the country? Absolutely no. So there's a long way to go. Now, what's going to be the outcome if such things are going to be continued, or if you're not going to change for the better? The cost of compliance is going to increase in a very big way. The ecosystem where we are saying that we need to involve the informal sector into the formal sector, we are doing the reverse of that. It's going to depend on informal sector. Financial systems, commercial transactions that takes place, cash-based, unless and otherwise the producer takes things on his hand 100% and makes things happen, it's not going to happen. So there's going to be a lot of cash transactions happening through various other stakeholders for or of the producer. Best practices for the next generations, we need to show the way. And of course, circular economy is a big word. We're not even there. We're not even in, as far as collection is concerned, we're not there. Forget about circular economy. Say. The second aspect is the collection center. Enough confusion that prevailed in the initial years when the rules came in, collection center versus collection point. All hell broke loose, and everybody were there out there, the online companies, offline companies, and finally the collection center and the collection point information was given is more or less the same. And even though in public, most statements keeps coming in from the government, but in writing, there's nothing much there. It's the same rules that exist. Now, most of the collection centers currently are outsourced. The problem is online companies, people who sell most of the products, brands who sell most of the products through online, they have a point to say that it's okay for me to do business on online, and everything happens online. So even collections, if any, I would be doing it through online. Why should I own a collection center? No responses yet from the government there. Valid point, but so individual producer based is it's not that. It's more to do with individual producer based currently. There's nothing called a collective mechanism. Audits, who is doing audits of collection centers, collection points? Is it the producer who's actually doing it, or the statutory authorities, or anybody else? Not really. We are very, very, very far way off from that. So outcome is what I look at is the collection center mechanism needs to be a need-based one. It's not just compliance-driven for the sake of putting up a collection center or a point or putting up a bin there. That's not the objective. The objective needs to be something very different, and see how do we serve the need. That's the key aspect. And we have seen the records in the last 2-3 years that the collections that are taking place in the collection centers and collection points, negligible, hardly any. So it needs to be relooked in a very, very big way. Some of the solutions, some of the ideas, can we use the post offices for a small fee, or the PDS or the banks? We've seen a lot of digitization happening in all this. Why not? Why can't the government come out with a concept too, or the producer community come out with a concept too of common collection centers? It will be a game changer for sure. And maybe if post offices, if we're able to use, it actually will enhance the success of post offices in a very big way. Awareness, again, it's mostly outsourced by the producer to the PROs and recyclers. Good programs have been done. There are quite a few people who have done good programs. A lot of efforts have been done to reach to the end level, to the informal sector too. But mostly it's been institutional. Mostly it's going to the colleges, schools, and so on and so forth. I'm not against that, but to the end consumer, as far as awareness is concerned, it's very, 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 very less as of now. Now, also the other trend that's been seen now is private players. It could be recyclers or producers, it could be recyclers or your PROs who are, or other bodies per se, associations who are doing such awareness programs. There's a lot of self-development, self-propaganda that's being done of what they are to, and it's obvious that they will be promoting their brand. At the end of the day, we want the producer to actually create these awareness programs of their brand to all the stakeholders. But that's not happening. So there's a shift that's happening in the country. Now we need to relook at it. I urge the producers to look at it and say that it's your money, you're spending money, and it's your brand that needs to be there. You are getting lost in the collage of brands of the awareness programs that's been done. Now, There are some brands, producers who have taken this in a very big way, spent lots and lots of money. There are a few brands who have hardly spent any money. Now, obviously, the big brands are going to come back and say, who have spent, saying that, why should I? What is it that I'm getting? What is the difference between me and the person who's not doing this? Who is looking at it? Is there clear-cut guidelines by the government as far as awareness is concerned? No. So the request by all stakeholders to the government is to come out with a model that actually measures the spends on awareness there. And also requesting the government to come out with their own programs, the Swachh Bharat missions that's come out, digitization, and so on and so forth. Excellent programs that's been initiated. We know that it is possible by the government to make things happen and create a lot of noise and create awareness. E-waste too, this industry requires that sort of an intervention by the government. And mass movement by all stakeholders is the key. And only then, if we are able to make it happen, the next generation, we will be able to showcase to them what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and we'll be able to actually take things forward in the right way by the next generation too. PROs, it's a new concept. The ground realities of PROs here, we all know that recyclers and aggregators are also PROs here. So the PROs, if I were to say, are they B2B based or are they B2C based? Who are they? I mean, there is a lot of confusion out there. Now, how do you address that? So the selling of the services of the PROs to all stakeholders is the key, is a big challenge currently too, for that matter. We have seen till now that few PROs work with all stakeholders. Good job done. Good awareness programs created. Excellent job done by a few. They have been attempting to create a behavioral shift in the society, helping out the informal sector too, bringing them into the formal sector. Excellent job done. Kudos to a few PROs there. Also, we know 95% of the e-waste is actually cash transacted, informal sector, so on and so forth. So bringing them onto the formal sector and getting the commercial transactions, paying a GST on invoice, efforts have been put there by a few PROs. Good job then. I request all PROs, look forward to all PROs to actually take it aggressively and make that change in the country. We know Sanshodhan and companies like Sanshodhan, there are very few in the country, but who are attempting to do a lot of digitization of this particular industry. It's not so easy. We know the government is coming up a 12-point program that's been designed with CDAT, and almost 8 points have been done. Recently, Mr. Gargava of CPCB and OEF and Anand Kumarji did inform us in a seminar 2 weeks back that 8 out of 12 points have been completed, and the digital portal is going to be announced very soon to the industry. Look forward to that. But there's very, very many that needs to be done as far as digitization is concerned. Mass balances, geotagging, geofencing. So the objective of digitization is not for the sake of just tracking. It's much, much more than that. And in every stakeholder's purview, digitization plays a very, very important role. Now, for the PROs, there's no level playing field at all. It's a very tough job for a PRO, because at the end of the day, there's not much of a product knowledge available for the PROs. Competing against the informal sector, trying to understand the products and trying to ensure that understand recycling solutions and see what fits what. Big challenges there for PROs. The competition again is from the recyclers, informal sectors, and aggregators too. Now, the PROs coming in because of too much of a knowledge or a lack of knowledge, we have seen initially that the cost of e-waste buying increased, and over a period of time there's been panic buying that's taken place and so on and so forth. But things are getting settled down, so I find that the PROs are getting settled now. They're able to understand, get the pulse of the markets now slowly and steadily. And we also see the challenge that the PROs are going to get going forward is we have also heard that producers are coming out with their own recycling plants. What happens that producers, if they open their own recycling plants, or they open up recycling plants and give it on O&M to recyclers to operate the plants? What will happen to PROs? The challenge is very many there. So big challenges, survival of PROs in the country is not going to be a problem in the country, but making things happen and bring a change like things that the change that's been brought in by PROs in Europe and other places in the world, can it happen in the country? Question marks. Recycling, it's been a boon, and I would say EPR has been a boon for recyclers. The recyclers always used to have this issue of there's no optimum utilization of the plant capacity and there's no inflow of material coming in. But after EPR coming in, we're happy as recyclers that yes, material is coming in there. But currently, as my earlier speakers did say, mostly the recyclers in the country are pre-processors. Now, why is it? Is it by choice? No. Because there's not been much of a material that's been coming into the recyclers' plants, hence there's not much of investments. But now, the last 2-3 years, we've seen a change. So now you'll find a lot of recyclers are investing a lot of money, a lot of new processes, a lot of new technologies coming in, a lot of announcements coming in. And so it's very good to see that the recycling community is actually stepping up and trying to make things happen and give a confidence back to the society, saying that we can make it happen in the country. Now, item-wise codes not available publicly by CPCB as far as recycling capacities are concerned. So if you see the overall capacity is announced, not item code wise. So I, as a producer, I'm actually confused to understand which recycler has got what capacities of what item codes. Still, talks are on, so hopefully soon the government, CPCB, will announce that too. And so we see, in fact, Dr. Richard did inform of the lithium-ion battery recycling. We are able to see it's a $1 billion opportunity in EV batteries too. So quite a few people are coming out with lithium-ion battery recycling. Exigo also is there in lithium-ion battery recycling. So last but not the least, the transparency and the data processes downstream, processes of recyclers is the key. So the certifications like the ISOs and the R2s or e-stewards slowly catching up. There will be some certification programs coming in by the government too. So recyclers are catching up. The challenges are support by the government is a the government has to handhold the recyclers. It's not going to be so easy. I mean, if there was another chapter on recyclers, we can talk at length, but the problems that exist for recyclers are very, very, very many. And the green public procurement is the key aspect, that taking a cue of the earlier discussions that took place, we request the government to actually give in a tag for recycled products, and green products are the key for the future, and see how the premium status can be given for recycled metals and materials. If that's done, I think that will be one way of accepting, saying that yes, recycled metals and materials can be used not only by general public or B2B, also by the government, and used in various tenders that the government also announces. So last but not the least, EPR is, it's a new paradigm. It's not CSR, let's be very clear. It's part of a sustainable business practice. Now, sustainable business practice, that's a huge, that sentence is a very strong sentence, but that industry itself is a very, very big industry. So it's a practice that needs to be practiced by all stakeholders, by producer in particular. And I by the point Dr. Amar Patnaik, when he said that polluters pay. Now, it cannot be I pollute and I pay. Now, that's not the way. So the fundamental shift from end of life to pollution prevention for the next generation, that should be the key. And basically a product policy. Now, each and every product that I as a producer am actually trying to manufacture if I'm able to understand and ensure that I'm able to serve the last mile needs too, that actually would help in a very big way. Last but not the least, that let's formalize the financial cost standards and environmental standards are the key. So EPR, it's a cooperative multi-stakeholder engagement. Now, with that, let me end my discussion. Thank you, Sanshodhan and Dr. Shalini, for giving an opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for providing these insights. It was quite comprehensive, and you have laid down very clearly that what are the challenges and what really is required. And I think we are moving with this. We are moving to the next speaker, Mr. A.L.N. Rao. And we are running quite late. We are running, I think we are, say, around 20-25 minutes. We are running late. But very quickly, we got an information that Mr. Jayesh Ranjan will be joining at 6 p.m. And we have our speaker, Mr. Ashish Tiwari, Principal Member Secretary, Pollution Control Board, Uttar Pradesh. So he has already joined us. So very quickly, we will move to Mr. Venkatesh Murthy, I think 10 to 15 minutes, and then we will move to the next speaker. Over to you, Mr. Venkatesh Murthy.
Yeah.
Shalini, I may have to go, but I will be there on the time, but you may have to conclude the session.
I will be able to, but
I'm there. I'm online because internet is giving problem. So
okay. So very briefly, I will introduce Mr. Venkatesh Murthy, who is a Managing Director of Advanced Chemistry, PT Singapore. Today he's joining us from Singapore, and he will enlighten us on the topic responsible recycling, environmentally sound recycling technologies and facilities in Singapore. I requested him to present a case study, and this will provide us some kind of insights at what is happening in one of the cleanest country in the world, which we know Singapore for. So over to you, Dr. Rao, Dr. Murthy.
Yeah. Can you able to see my slide, by the way?
Yes, we can see you.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's a great session going on, and I'm hearing since beginning that there are a lot of important topics being discussed. I think one of the speaker mentioned that it is important also to take away from this kind of workshop or seminar, and we need to put our brain and soul how we can able to fix these problems. I think basically I used to say that it's a man-created problem. We have to fix it one or other way. This IT revolution has created so much of problems to the mankind as well as to the environment. If we don't fix it, the nature will not able to take any more. We exploit more and more every day, and we create more and more problems. With that note, I just would like to highlight how the Singapore, the best practice of e-waste recycling. Just to give an idea that, I started my journey of e-waste recycling way back in 1998 during the pager age. It's a pager. When we came to Singapore, the electronic gadgets was the pager. We used to run the pager. That's the time we started e-waste recycling. We run big industries in Singapore, and we have also explored globally, and I have traveled around 60 to 70 countries across the globe. And I sit on many international committees, including the OUTCO as a board director and ambassador from Asia, and we direct you and so on. So,
Dr. Murthy, I will just take 1 second of yours.
Yes,
I will request all the speakers to stay back, all the speakers and panelists, because there is Q&A, and we are giving last 10 minutes for Q&A. And before that, we will listen to two more speakers, our guest of honors from Telangana and UP government. So please stay with us. Over to you, back to you, Dr. Murthy.
Thank you so much. See, irrespective of the country, whether it's a developed or developing country, still there are a lot of challenges we are facing. Then number one, the EEE products are the same in the sense that the chemistry and the metallurgy of all the EEE products same. It's the same Apple phone, it's the same Samsung phone, it's the same Dell computer, it's the same refrigerators and all. So globally is the same, the product chemistry, and the impact should be also the same. though we put the boundary physically, but to the environment, to the metals or to the resources, the environmental impact is the same. So the value what we recover back from these e-waste or e-resources should be the same, except the change in the currency. But we have a lot of confusions. Every country has their own legal framework, their own way of looking into the e-waste or e-resource. And again, every state in certain countries also look differently based on their local context. I think first of all, we should remove this barricade or a complex knot looking into e-waste into the respective of the state or the country. The impact is the same, the value is the same, and the potentially the overview what we are looking into the same. So it should be the same everywhere. So Singapore, for example, why Singapore is one of the fine country? Of course, we pay a lot of fine also here. If you do mistakes, we pay a lot of fine. So basically the success of Singapore model, the number one, it is a small country. I'm talking a country of almost 60 lakhs people, as against 130 crores of people, is a 6 million people in Singapore, and a country of 1,200 square kilometers of area, east to west, north to south. You can drive in 15 to 20 minutes of time. But yet, we in Singapore do not have a free landfill or informal sector's way of doing the things, or you may not be able to see even a piece of paper on the road or anywhere, any corner of Singapore. That's how the legal systems work in Singapore. So basically, the general approach of Singapore is the same, like a 3R, or you call it as a 4R. But the good part of Singapore is that, they go all the way to the down, including the incineration bottom ash. Instead of going for the landfill, they do also separate the valuables from the incineration bottom ash. So in the sense that here, the technology is the strong driving factor, and secondly, the financial incentive scheme or the right pricing, the polluter pay principle. The government has taken a strong leadership to make sure the price is right, investors' interest is being protected, and the contract will be given to the right company so that things will not go wrong. Everything goes as what the legal frames lay down, and if something goes wrong, there will be heavy penalty, and as well as the license will be revoked. So important point to note here, the legal framework, the enforcement, and also to make sure the traceability and accountability. So I just would like to give, because I think I'm the one speaking outside India. So totally we generate about 7.23 million tons, but not the e-waste. Let me tell you, overall waste, including the organic, inorganic, everything, including the construction debris and everything. We generate about 7.23 million tons annually, out of which about 61% is being recycled. So every year the target of the recycling, that increment is about 6%. If you break down what are the waste we manage in Singapore, for example, construction and demolition, we are able to recover up to 99%. So you can see the numbers. And metals wise, ferrous metals or non-ferrous, again, metals 99%. Paper and cardboard 44%, and some are very low percent. For example, if you're looking at the glass, 14% only, scrap tires about 94%, and so on. So that means to say the government of Singapore, which is Ministry of Environment and Forest, as well as National Environmental Agency Singapore, has a very, very, very transparent data systems. So every year they collect all these data, they publish in their website, so that the awareness of this recycling and the responsibility of the stakeholders are very, very high. So as far as e-waste concerned, Singapore generated about 113,000 metric tons, which is as compared to India. India is the third largest, by the way. Someone was telling about fifth largest. India is the third largest, which is about 3.23 million metric tons, which is next to China and America. India is the third largest. Unfortunately, many speakers told that India do not have even a single integrated e-waste recycling facilities, whereas Singapore has more than 10 integrated recycling plants. So the per capita also very high as against to India, which is only about 2 kgs in India, whereas here it's about 20 kg per capita. We have about 20 plus recycling companies. As I mentioned, we have only 5.9 million people, which is about 59 lakhs, 113,000 metric tons we recover. We have about 7 refiners. Very first company we started in 1999, first refining company. We went for public, and the company market cap was almost close to $500 million. I'm talking about 20 years back. You can imagine the e-waste is a above the ground mining. We should not call e-waste as a waste. It should be a resource, because whether you take anything, whether it's a refrigerators or dishwashers or the TV or the mobile phones or laptops and so on, every part will be useful as long as we use it. The moment functionally it is not working, we call it as a waste. There are good plastic, there are good metals, and there are good glass and so on. It can be recovered. The question here is that legal framework and financial incentive scheme, as well as the right licensing criteria. If we have all these, by taking interest of the stakeholders, by sharing the information, all stakeholders' interest being put under one umbrella, this business has to be done profitably, and that's what Singapore is successful, running these businesses self-sustainable and profitable under the public-private partnership programs, including the refrigerators as well as the lamps. So just to give an idea of what kind of integrated recycling facilities we have, I just share that mechanical plant, mobile shredders, pollution control systems, whether it's a particulate matters and or acidic pollutants like SOx, NOx, or alkaline fumes, and CRT recycling plant, or electro-refining of copper, or refrigerant extraction, and so on. So integrated means to say that every individual fractions can able to address. Doesn't mean that all 100% can be recovered. There are toxic which need to be neutralized, which can be neutralized, and make sure you can able to comply with all the regulatory limits. Some of the products which we, everyone knows about it, the CRT glass contains basically funnel glass, and the leaded glass can be separated, can be put back to supply chain. Likewise, the rubber, likewise the ferrous metals, likewise the non-ferrous metals, likewise the precious metal. And as the technology is, changing every day, we are seeing more and more rare earth elements, which is something interesting for the recycling companies to look into that. So this is all the gold, just to give an idea that, we have recovered about 12.5 tons of gold in 15 years in Singapore under my previous company, about 6.5 tons of platinum, about 30,000 metric tons of copper, and likewise about 25 tons of silver, and so on. So doing the business of e-waste, the main thing is, again and again, I would like to say, it's a technology is very important, and the financial incentive schemes are important. To support that, to support the investors' investment, we need to have a right legal framework as well as the enforcement, so that we can prevent all the level playing field, unlike certain developing countries like India or Philippines or Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and so on. So here in Singapore, we have a great systems. Every house has a proper collection systems. We cannot anyhow throw anywhere. Every housing board or private apartments have a trash bag throwing chute. It will go to the common bins, and every day the waste management company come and collect the things and segregate and do the proper recycling. So it's a mandatory collection. The government will allot the contracts to the various general waste collectors and e-waste collectors. It has to be 100%. There is no way that the waste will be left alone for more than a day. If it is coming in the morning, they have to come in the morning, pick up the waste bin, and go for the recycling. Now we have gone to the next level of advancement. We have kept even the sensors to all the bins, so that we don't waste the time. In order to enhance the productivity of Singapore, that the manpower cost is very high, unlike India. So we are going semi-automatic to the automatic systems in Singapore, especially in the waste management division. 100% traceability and accountability. And of course, the right pricing is very important, whether it's in water or it's a waste. Singapore do not have any natural resources, even water also being imported from Malaysia. forget other things, everything is being imported, but at the right pricing, every generators must pay it. By law, it is a mandate. That's how Singapore runs as a fine country, and that's why. So we have given a lot of emphasis on the awareness creation, the license criteria, like someone was mentioning the competency of the key governmental agencies. We need to have a right competency and the mindset so that every stakeholders will survive in our industry. It's not we can just do a policeman job, just put all the necessary guidelines to the recyclers, where the producers will take a free ride, taking out their responsibility. It is a producer's fundamental responsibility, and recyclers also has to pay the equal responsibility to make sure we have environmental sound management systems that requires technology, that requires recycling fees, where the government has to put the recycling fees. Just like Taiwan, for example, we call it as a EPA, the environmental pollution fees. So likewise, any other countries, there's a recycling fees. So very high standards on the pollution controls. We follow US standards. Of course, we also cross-reference the B directive, e-stewardship and R2, apart from ISO 14 and 18 and all. So we have a dedicated systems for the focused metal, especially the toxic industries, whether it is a battery or any toxic like lead or mercury or liquid solutions containing the various chemicals, nickel, cadmium, chromium, and so. We have a dedicated vehicle and dedicated license, like a toxic industrial waste collection license, in the sense that the generator has to register with the National Environmental Agency. Before we go for collection, they have to declare to the online declaration, this is 100 liters of solution we are sending to company A. And once we collect, we need to generate this on the system that, how much we collected, what time we collected, when the life cycle is completed of treatment. That's the kind of traceability and accountability we have in Singapore. So unfortunately, we do not have any dedicated e-waste systems or regulations as on date, but we are in the way that we will be launching it by 2021, supposed to be this year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it's being postponed to the next year. So we have a stipulated regulatory systems whereby end of life electronics, the household electronics like the home appliances, TVs, audio, video, dishwashers, washing machines, air conditioners, everything has to be recycled. So far, the success is only on the manufacturing rejects. Of course, the end of life used to be collected by the general waste collectors, and they used to do segregations and give it to the recycling company. But now the government have a plan to create two systems. One is the GPRO, government appointed PRO, producer responsibility organization, and second one is the IPRO, industrial PRO. So with these two has to work together to make sure they collect back their products, whatever they put into the market. There are collection targets, just like any other country's collection targets. So why there is focused metal is being properly addressed under these new regulatory systems coming into the place next year. So there are 5 categories of focused metal. One is the solar PV panels, and second is all the ICT equipments like printers, PC, mobile phones, and so on. And third important is the batteries, which is equally important. And fourth is the lamps, which is all types of bulbs, including the LED as well, and large household home appliances like air conditioners, washing machines, and so on. So in the sense that, we are by implementation of this new system, with appointment of the GPRO and IPRO, again, all the recycling companies, and EPR will be taken into a strong position by next year, so that all the negative items are the focus metals, the recycling fees will be covered by the producers, and it will be monitored by the GPRO, so that 100% recycling can happen in Singapore. Unlike in the past, only certain 70 to 80% used to happen. The rest we used to export to, again, about 2 to 3% of the printed circuit board used to export to Europe as well as to Japan and so on. But there are a lot of funding available from the government, a lot of research going on by the various universities and institutions. With that, the Singapore is creating its own model, so that it's Singapore trying to avoid importing as well as exporting. So it has to be a self-sustainable business model with a local context of the technology, so that resources are not being exported to other countries, where it will lose a lot of money to the other economies. And likewise, they do not want to import any e-waste from other countries, which is a good already Europe and other countries already doing. I think with that, as I already mentioned, I don't want to say it's a fine country. Uh, for everything there is a restrictions. Fine for littering, fine for there are no, of course there is no chewing gum here. Everything happens online. So when you talk about digitalization, I would say that it's a good tool to control the electronic waste, as like any other things. I can go few pages about all these restrictions. When you step out of the house, you have restrictions where you need to walk, what you need to do, what not to do, all restrictions. That's how the country is fine. So final quick that, so it's important any country, for example, all stakeholders must work together. It is not that it is a responsibility of only recyclers or the government agencies. Everyone has to come under one umbrella, need to understand each other's difficulties. Why in India, for example, though it's a 3 million, yet we do not have an integrated facility. Who wants to invest? Because this investment is under high risk. It's not that Europeans or someone, recyclers do not want to bring heavy hydrometallurgy or pyrometallurgy. But the question is that when there is a 85% of level playing field still there, that's where the investment has a high risk. So we all need to understand, work together. It is an important recycling. It needs technology. It needs the right stipulated regulatory system and also enforcement. Secondly, the financial incentives, which I have already mentioned, the criteria to issue the licenses. Many countries we have seen that, it's mostly goes on the paper licenses.
Yeah. Dr. Murthy, we are on the last slide, it seems.
It is the last slide.
Yeah.
So then competency, someone already mentioned that, competency on the environmental agencies to understand, though the word is a common e-waste, but every individual type has its own chemistry. If it's a CRT monitor, it's a different chemistry. If it is a mobile phone PCB, it's a different chemistry. So we need to understand, and accordingly, we need to set the financial incentive schemes as well as the recycling technology will change. So it is important to have a public-private partnership. And again, is important awareness among all the stakeholders. And it's also important to protect the investment and finally, the right technology. So I will not be going in detail about that. It's all there in our, we sit on many international committees, like R2, ISRI, Amity, WAMRAS, Waste Management Association of Singapore, ISRO, and so on. That gives us an idea that how this e-waste need to be legislated as well as to be monitored. So with that, I would like to once again thank to the organizer and Dr. Nali, thank you so much, and all the speakers for bringing us a important, aspects of our journey. Hopefully, we can be able to transform over the period. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Murthy. And I think you were talking about some humongous figures like 35,000 tons of gold in 15 years and 30,000 tons of platinum. I think it's a great value which you are talking about. Tons means it's kind of not only a use for good for you or as a recycling unit, but it's also for the economy of the country as such. It's a humongous figure for you. So thank you for providing your precious time today and for being with us. I request all the panelists to stay with us for the Q&A session. And now we have our guest of honor along with us for the day, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. Mostly everybody and many of us know him for his so many initiatives, but it's my responsibility to introduce him formally with the participants at least who are here. So Mr. Jayesh Ranjan is an Indian Administrative Service batch 1992 officer and a tropper for batch 1992. His recent quote, I would like to say, the digital transformation will help us overcome all hindrance in governance, speed up the file movement, ensure transparency and accountability, and uninterrupted delivery of the governance in any kind of abnormal situations, such as the one created by the COVID-19 pandemic, is the one which we recently read. And a lot of initiatives are progressing under his leadership in Telangana. Some to name are like e-office, T-Hub, then e-governance, task, and easing out the clearance for the businesses, and then the digital Telangana and many more. So we welcome you here, sir, today as a guest of honor, and over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shalini, for inviting me. My greetings to everyone on the occasion of International E-Waste Day. I'm very glad that some very distinguished people, lots of domain experts have given very good suggestions and ideas and recommendations on what, as a government, we need to do. I would, in my short presentation, I would like to share with everyone that Telangana as a government is very very conscious about its responsibility of ensuring a very sustainable and green kind of an ecology and ecosystem for all our citizens. In fact, we will, many of us will know that our government has a flagship program of tree plantation, which is called Harita Hara, under which we want to raise the tree cover, the green cover, from 24% to 33%. And the kind of plantation which is happening under this program, in a way, someone was telling me the other day that this, once it is completed, this will be the third highest endeavor in recorded human history, not in independent India or in Asia or anywhere, in recorded human history of this kind of plantation. And obviously under the Swachh Bharat program also, Telangana is at the forefront of this campaign. There are periodic drives which are conducted to promote cleanliness. Our state has received the ODF, the Open Defecation Free status, many years ago when this program had just begun. So by 2018 itself, Telangana had become an ODF. So in our opinion, electronics waste is some kind of a last frontier. We have taken care of the environment through plantation, through rejuvenation of water bodies. We have taken the lead in ODF and Swachh Bharat, etc. Electronic waste in some way, as I said, remains the final frontier. And we are also aware, when Shalini quoted my passage of my speech about digitalization. Now, this also has this particular adverse consequence that it will add to the existing load of electronic waste, which we are already grappling with. In fact, in the country, Hyderabad is the 5th largest generator of electronic waste. And estimate, I have an old number, which is a 2015 number, where it is shown that Hyderabad currently generates 25,000 metric ton per annum. But between 2015 and now, I'm sure this would have gone up by another 2,000-3,000 metric ton. But as I said, after digitalization, and this is inevitable. In fact, I'm a part of so many other conversations also, where digitalization is going to touch even the bottommost of the pyramid people by making various kinds of devices available to them, by making the data plans even cheaper, by ensuring that lots of transactions, at least the ones where government is a party, has to be done compulsorily using digital means. And we are already seeing what's happening in education and so on and so forth. Prime Minister has announced the national health, the digital health mission in his Independence Day address. So healthcare also, if you want to buy a simple medicine also from a pharmacy, that transaction also will have to be intermediated through a digital means. So there will be a very big push towards digitalization, and this will be an adverse consequence of that. So what we have done is that recognizing the fact that we are by and large a state considered to be very progressive about ecology, about sustainability, about SDGs, etc. And since electronics waste is a final frontier, as I said, in 2017 itself, we have developed an e-waste policy. Again, very few states have their own dedicated policies, right? There is a national e-waste disposal and handling rules, etc., which had come out in 2016. But for a state government to design a dedicated policy for e-waste is one of the first of its kind. And I know that subsequently 3-4 other states have also done that, but we remain the pioneers in that. And if you go through that policy, it's there on our website. Maybe after I complete speaking, I'll post a link on the chat box so that you can also pull it out and read it. We have decided that our approach towards e-waste will be based on 3-pronged strategy. First is that we have to create awareness in the society itself. I mean, not government's responsibility that I mean, you do whatever you want and then I kind of clean up the mess. People have to participate in proper segregation, in proper channelizing end of the life product to the right avenues instead of just discarding it here and there. So how does one create a society which is aware, mature, and plays the right kind of role? The second, of course, as other speakers have pointed out, there is a huge unorganized sector which is involved in handling of e-waste. So obviously their livelihoods are at stake, and unless we bring them as partners, unless we recognize them also as stakeholders, our approach will not be inclusive. So another pillar in our strategy is to assist this very unsafe and a very unorganized sector transition into the organized sector through multiple initiatives. And I'm glad that a few other speakers also mentioned what they have done. Our initiatives are more or less is on similar line. And the third concept, of course, many of you have also alluded to it. There is a old saying which talks about wealth from waste. How can waste also create wealth for you? So obviously that only happens when you do refurbishing, when you do recycling, and you create an ecosystem which supports all that. So that is the third important pillar in our strategy. And as I said, we have taken a holistic stakeholder approach. Everyone who is involved in some part or the other, there is some program for them. So of course, there are, while there are important programs for producers, people who manufacture electronic products, but there are lots of targeted interventions for the consumers also. And again, we are making a distinction between types of consumers. There are, first of all, bulk consumers, like let us say IT company, which has 50,000 employees. So obviously the usage of electronic products will be enormous, and obviously the waste also will be generated enormously. Similarly, retail consumers, non-bulk consumers, household. The unorganized sector candidates, the stakeholders, we call them green warriors. We have to give respect, we have to give dignity, and then only we'll be able to get them transition into this activity. So how do you ensure that green warriors are also trained and linked with the formal system? Of course, the formal system has a large number of recycling units. How do you ensure that there is proper collection, dismantling, and other processes in the recycling unit? And of course, refurbishing. How do you, in a way, incentivize refurbishing, recycling, etc., etc. So what we have done is that, as I said, the policy outlines all these interventions. So I would detail all of these interventions, but I'm trying to give you the direction in which our government is taking. And the last thing which I want to share is, see, in our country, we hear this criticism quite frequently that there are great policies, hundreds of good policies are seen on paper, but very little action happens on the ground. Everyone writes a beautiful drafted policy, but there's very little follow-up to convert that policy into action. So what we have done is that we have set up a center of excellence along with the national ministry, the national IT ministry and Telangana government. Some of you will know that there is already a great institution in Hyderabad called CMET, CMET. So CMET is the channelizing agency for the Center of Excellence. The COE will be housed in CMET, and it is jointly set up by Telangana government and the National IT Ministry called METI. And through this Center of Excellence, all these initiatives that I spoke about, identifying skill development programs for the green warriors, preparing sensitization material for society at large, targeting bulk consumers, retail consumers, households, targeting producers, working with a defined number of recycling units. And in this context, of course, the last 6 months, 7 months of this disturbance all around us has pushed us back a bit. We should have started these COE activities in full throttle by March of this year. So there is a slight delay, but of course we have plans to catch up and so on and so forth. So this is what is the government thinking. And as I also mentioned, we believe in a genuine partnership approach. So for instance, the initiative of Shalini of setting this electronic exchange or a digital exchange through which we connect the consumers with the recyclers and the refurbishers. Anyone who wants to discard, there is a online platform on which you are able to tell people that so much of waste is available with you, and then there is a way of transitioning it into recycling and refurbishing units, etc., etc. This is again something which is of great value to us. So as I said, I'm very delighted to share with you the approach of Telangana government. As I said, we want to do all these things through partnerships, and I'll be very keen to look forward to your ideas, your practical ideas of in which frame do you want to collaborate with the government. So once again, greetings to all of you on the occasion of International E-Waste Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for providing your precious time today. I know that you were into a function convocation with JNTU, as you are also the VC of the university. And as there was a lot of demand and people wanted to hear from you, thank you so much, sir, for being with us today. So now I call upon our last but not the least, the speaker of the day, and one of the most important states in the terms of electronic waste management also, because we see many electronic and electrical production units in nearby areas in UP, Gurgaon, and adjacent areas. Mr. Ashish Tiwari.
Yes, good evening to everybody.
Sir, okay, we welcome you, sir. We welcome you for this. Mr. Ashish Tiwari is, it's just a brief about sir, though we all know him, but for the attendees, Mr. Ashish Tiwari is an IFS officer, basically is an MTech from IIT Delhi. Currently, he is leading as a member secretary, UP Pollution Control Board. Sir, we welcome you here today for the event on digitization for EPR compliance and circular economy. Over to Mr. Ashish Tiwari.
Yeah, thank you, Shalini. Thank you very much. It was wonderful hearing all the presentations. I have been here for about 1 hour, and I have had very good Singapore experience by Mr. Murthy, and rightly pointed out that the challenges out here in a state like UP and a state and a country like India would be very, very different from what we have abroad. So I would like to begin with the basic data of processing of e-waste by informal sector. So it is around 85 to 90%, which is very, very high. The today's theme is circular economy, the use of secondary raw material. So I think that particular objective cannot be achieved if we look towards our informal sector. The challenge is really there for informal sector. Always as an enforcement agency, there is a kind of understanding that the informal sector is basically culprit of formal sector not being progressing. This is what is seen always, and this is what is expected of us. I am speaking as an enforcement agency that why don't you close all the activities which are there in informal sector? See, we have very burning example of illegal processing of e-waste in the state of Uttar Pradesh out there in Moradabad. You must have read 25,000 metric ton of black powder which is being generated from illegal processing of electronic waste by informal sector in Moradabad, which have been done since very long time. Traditionally, they used to do it. So that much of a black powder was there in the river bed of Ramganga river. Of course, it's a different success story that we could clean that river bed, and now we are taking that whole black powder waste to TSDF, which is being developed in Amroha. There are other illegal e-waste clusters in the Delhi border. Shalini mentioned about areas in NCR region. There is a very prominent cluster of e-waste, illegal e-waste processing in Loni. Because of they are mainly air polluting nature, and the focus which is now very high towards control of air pollution, the local administration and the police and the pollution control board, they have dismantled actually large number of industries which were operating in loony areas. But see what happens at the end of the day. When you do enforcement, actually the illegal processing shifts from one place to other. So we find that this is not the solution, and there are other challenges also, which I mentioned in one other workshop also. We have started a kind of physical verification of the recycling units. Somewhere we found that they are merely on paper. From there also, there is a leakage of e-waste to the informal sector. So these are very hard truths which we have to accept if we really want to work for circular economy and use of secondary resources in the field of electronic and electrical waste. So I start from here. It is not a very, you can say, very demoralizing picture. It's not like that. But since we have worked in other sectors also, I strongly feel that we must work for, because see, many areas they do it traditionally. So we cannot, overnight we cannot tell them that you stop this activity and start doing something else. So now we have to work for such technologies which are very low cost, which have lesser degree of environmental pollution footprints. That kind of technology as a policy we should work for. Last year we had a workshop on circular economy in the state of Uttar Pradesh, in which many national level institutes were represented. So one institute, National Institute in Ranchi, they have developed very low cost e-waste processing technique which has very low pollution footprint. So such kind of techniques really appeal me. If we strive to develop such technologies, and basically we need to handhold the informal sector for conversion. Of course, it's a slow process, but herein begins the role of the government. And because the very promising circular economy field is e-waste, because whatever you recover is really precious. And to recover from electronic waste is also easier as compared to other wastes, because there are no such issues of segregation. If you compare it with plastic waste, there is a very difficult issue of segregation of MLPs, etc. But here, since already one informal sector is working for segregation also, for collection also, we have to simply handhold them, give them low-cost technologies, support them, and convert them into a kind of formal sector. We cannot deal with 90% of our electronic waste without them. So this is a kind of change in thinking we must bring in for tackling this problem. That was one point. Second point is the role of government to give impetus for circular economy is very, very important. Like you must have heard about the green procurement preferences for the products and the services which are being outcome of green skills and green technology. That kind of some kind of impetus, if at our policy level we can devise for procurement of secondary raw material used products, at least for government sectors. This will basically help them to take off. It is very necessary that actually these new interventions should take off. So this is again going to be a very important intervention so far as our policy level is concerned. My earlier speaker sir from Telangana, he spoke about the e-waste policy. We are also designing e-waste policy for the state of Uttar Pradesh. Maybe we may not be having a different e-waste policy, but we will incorporate e-waste principles in our environment policy, which is at a very advanced stage. So there we will be focusing upon circular economy like very prominently in our environment policy, which holds good for those elements, holds good for all kinds of waste processing and under the principles of circular economy. Thirdly, we must, if the question of enforcement is there, then of course I strongly feel that enforcement should be done for those who are actually doing it on paper. There we have to enforce. We need to verify, we need to design some systems like you must have heard of the cleanest Kumbh, which the state government organized, last one, where the quality of river water of Ganga was appreciated world over. So that kind of digital kind of intervention in monitoring we have to devise for. There we designed some online monitoring system for every drain, every STP, every ETP in the industries, and physical monitoring we did not resorted to because the field and the domain was very large. So that kind of a system we are thinking of developing for e-waste processing industries also. Lastly, I would not be very long because I will be talking about mostly the implementation and this practical difficulty part, which is actually felt at the ground level. Lastly, I think these kinds of monitoring and surveillance system for e-waste processing we will be developing, and of course we have started recently putting a pan tilt zoom camera in the industries, which we can monitor from the place where I am speaking. This is our control room, command and control room. From here we monitor online the camera feed of all constructions, sites, industries, ETPs, and of course electronic waste processing industries also. So there, this kind of a monitoring system we can design, and we are trying to design so that level of compliance is actually increased. The very important aspect of circular economy will be refurbishing. The 7R principles. How can we actually reduce the waste? So the product design should be such that the waste generated should be minimum. It holds good for plastic waste and electronic waste too. And definitely the refurbishing market and the recycled market, that kind of system again is a way forward for this e-waste domain. And you must have heard of urban clap, where all kinds of recycled and refurbished furniture, etc. you get. That kind of some kind of a e-market system, if it is there, then it will definitely give impetus for like use of refurbished electronic gadgets and electronic and electrical items. So these are mostly the strategy should be multi-pronged, and the strategy should be able to address all stages of a value chain so that the overall impact becomes very positive. So this is all from my side. We would be very happy to have your experiences, have your expertise to support us. I am inviting you all to support us as a you can say the as a head of UP Pollution Control Board. It's my pleasure to invite you all to coordinate with us, to help us, so that lastly, one more thing which I have Shalini also exchanged some messages about, that we must have a kind of a unified portal, at least for the state of Uttar Pradesh or at the country level, where what are all the digital footprints of processing one can go and see, and it should be in the public domain. See, as an administrator, I feel that to monitor everything physically is very, very difficult. But if you put your things in public domain, the grievances and the stakeholders feedback, they set everything right automatically. You need to be just very, very sensitive towards feedback from stakeholders, feedback from public. It sets right everything. So only thing is you can use a public domain for that, so that things can be really seen happening at the ground level. So this was all from my side. I invite you all, and we are very open for collaborating with any organization for a general cause of environment betterment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for providing these insights and the details, and also for the openness that is there, and for the invitation to all. I see there are many faces who are like very happy look after having the invitation extended from your end. So thank you for providing your precious time. And very quickly, I will take some questions, because we have many questions here talking about POPs, then BFRs, then tips for optimization of and minimization of electronics. So I'll take one by one some few important questions. If any panelist would like to reply on that, can just unmute themselves and reply on this question, please. So one question, it's about talking about the presentation was showing the children working with dangerous products. What the measure the government is taking actually to stop the exploitation of children and shifting this activity for mechanized operations? I think this is for Mr. Ashish Tiwari. If there is something being done for the child labor in this sector, sir.
Yeah. You have rightly pointed out this problem. We see everywhere in informal sector, whether it is electronic waste or solid waste, lot of child labor involvement is there. So we have got a labor department at place in the state, and these things are such grievances are taken up by them. And definitely largely which I have talked, when we formalize this sector, I think such kinds of issues will be taken care of in long term. So, but as a short term, whatever grievances, whatever you see, we will share the grievance portal. There is a grievance portal of UP government, which we call as IGRS, Integrated Grievance Redressal System. It's a very public oriented system, where if you put a grievance, the grievance will be declared disposed only when the complainant is satisfied. So it's a kind of interactive grievance redressal system. So that kind of systems with very openness can really tackle such problems.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I think we are moving to the next question. It is addressed to Dr. Ashok Kumar. We do not apply technologies for the recycle or extraction. What steps are in offering, if any, one to get these required technologies? So do you think there are any technologies that are good for providing to the informal sector, or to open such systems where the informal sector also can work into the healthy conditions?
Yes, Dr. Shalini, we are also working with CMAT. This is under the Ministry of Electronics, what our earlier speaker from Telangana has mentioned, that the Center for Excellence, which is taking care for refining of precious metals. And we are also discussing with them to have a plant and machinery, which is very, very low cost, as Dr. Tiwari has mentioned, that will be able to help lot of informal sector people to mine the gold out of the electronic waste, because it will be costing about 1 crore plus, and then it can be distributed to 10 or 15 people the same technology, and that will reduce the cost to 20-25 lakhs rupees, which will help all these Moradabad, Aligarh, all these belt, which is using recovery of precious metal by way of chemical leaching, that they are using a lot of chemicals which are very harmful for the every humankind. So that is the reason this plant and machine is in process, and the CMET has already developed. That will come very shortly. Within 6 months, it will be carried out, because we had a discussion with Dr. Chatterjee of Ministry of Electronics and IT. He is after for this product, and we hopefully will be able to come with that sort of plant and machinery. And we are also developing few machineries which are low cost, as Dr. Tiwari has mentioned. We are trying, because with our 10 years of experience, we know what are the shredders can be used, and what are the scrubbers can be used, and what are the ETP plants which are low cost, so that the plastic or the e-waste can be recycled. The CMET is in a very advanced stage.
Thank you so much. There is a question talking about, they have directed to Dr. Lobo, at what stage the Tata lithium-ion battery recycling process reached? Is this a lab level or has been successfully started at the industrial level? So as we have been associated with Tata Chemicals, and as Dr. Lobo was saying, this is already at the industrial level, and they are using this recycle, and that's how they have named this as Inspirico. So we have helped them from, it's like 7-8 months back. So the technology selection and everything was since last year it was done. So next question is about the recycling plants for POP chemicals like BFRs. How do we ensure specialized facilities or technologies for separation of these chemicals from the main product? Would anybody would like to answer this? It's talking about POPs and BFRs.
Once again, I think I agree with technology comes with a cost. There are technologies available in Europe for the photographic separations of these kind of plastics. Yeah, it is available, but only thing is the cost, certain cost. And I'll go back to another point, which the previous question, like, I think it's best that, instead of every other person holding the technology, we can create, country like India, we can go for a hub concept. Like every city can have a hub concept, have a common facilities like a scrubber systems, wastewater treatment, invite many, potential SMEs or informal sectors. And it's the journey of not just everyone going for recovery, dismantling, segregation, separations and all, which we have seen countries like in Switzerland also. It's all manual. Manual segregation separation is the best as compared to the mechanical plant AD current electrostatic, which comes at a high cost. So if you think of having a hub concept with a CMET technology, which I'm also aware of that, on the pyrometallurgy and hydrometallurgy, which is good. Every city can host a hub with the common facilities where the cost can be reduced. Many informal sectors as well as SMEs can come into the role. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is another question they have asked. It's Dr. Bharat Jain, who's a member secretary, GCPC Gujarat. So we have been associated with him for working on some aspects. So he has asked, what are the tips for optimization or minimization of usage of electronics? It's kind of a question which is going towards the behavioral aspect, but if anybody would like to answer on this.
Dr. Shalini, the Central Pollution Control Board has already carried out a lot of studies, and they have mentioned to the producers that whatever is the hazardous waste, there has to be a reduction of hazardous waste in all the equipments which are to be manufactured. There is a condition mentioned by them when they are giving the EPR authorizations to the producers. So there is a lot of reduction of hazardous waste is being carried out, which is very important. The rest of the metals can be recovered. It is the hazardous waste in the electronic equipments is a cause of concern. So that CPCB has already framed the policy, and it is being done by the producers.
Okay. Thank you, sir.